Hey guys. This is part 13 of What If Naruto Was an Introvert. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 61, The Red Diplomacy, the Third Choice. The Kage meeting began with a simple act by the Tsuchikage, Naruto Namikaze. He slammed Zabuza Momochi's sword down in the middle of the room, letting it pierce the ground up to the hilt. The silence that ensued in the tent, placed near the borders with the fighting lines between Konoha, Kiri and Kuma, was thick as the tensions rose noticeably. All three of Naruto's genin shuddered at the sight, their spines standing straight as chills ran down their back. The Raikage's eyes both rose at the sight, while the bodyguards behind him, a blond short-haired man, and a dark-skinned and white-haired boy, stiffened their backs. The Mizukage gazed at the sword and then at the Tsuchikage with a mixture of shock, and soon after spite. Behind her, a kid with a pair of large headphones and thick-rimmed glasses swallowed thickly from nervousness, while a man wearing an eye patch grimaced and scowled darkly. The Kazekage was absent. Mifune blinked, but remained quiet. He had seen enough madness at the start, and this seemed normal. "You have all been had," Naruto said calmly. He crossed his arms over his chest. "Zabuza died trying to kill me during the last Kage meeting, and I took that as my cue to leave my past life behind, feigning my death," he added. His eyes trailed over the shocked faces of the Mizukage and the Raikage, who both schooled their faces only a moment too late. Tsunade looked at him with a frown, while Sakura's gaze hardened. Her eyes betrayed her inner turmoil, and he didn't need to hear the whispers of her chakra to understand what she was thinking. "I headed towards the border with Kumo," he said. "I thought about entering the land of snow. It was desolate and forgotten enough, and I was tired of everything, you know. I just wanted peace." He sighed. "But suffice to say, I did not obtain it, and forced by circumstances, I decided I was better off going to Iwagakure," he continued. His hat covered the upper side of his face, as his lips curled in a smile. "After beheading the Turtle Island with the help of Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru of the Sannin." What?" Tsunade croaked out, before the Raikage roared, slamming his fists on the table. "You bastard, it was you! You killed one of the ancient treasures of Kumo, you brat! You jump-started this war, and now you have the guts to come here and confess it all!" I roared. Naruto smiled, and politely coughed as he continued his talk. "And now, the end of the line is that both Kiri and Kumo have been fighting each other over something that I sparked, while I was still a missing nin of Konoha." He chuckled as the Raikage bodyguards brought in a new desk for their boss. And then Konoha entered the fray, adding fuel to the fire. "You!" A hissed and brought his right fist forward in rage, crushing the new table as his bodyguards sighed, looking at the remains of the table and then shrugging, as they tensed together with their kage. "But the fact is, I left no eyewitnesses," Naruto said crisply, looking at the Raikage. "As I had no intention of jump-starting a war, be it with Konoha or Kiri. On the other hand, someone else would have benefited from it. Someone who wished for war to weaken both countries, making it easier to subdue and acquire the Eight Tails," he pointed out. "But even that was just an excuse, trifle as it was, for a far greater plan, engineered by a mastermind beyond my comprehension." He shook his head. "I have to admit it, I am actually awed by the amount of care he gave into this plan of his." "Who are you talking about, brat?" Tsunade hissed. "Orochimaru?" Anko's eyes gleamed. "Hokage-sama, we should take him in. He's a missing nin of Konoha, Tsuchikage or not, he's betraying the village by simply being here." "Shut it, Sagabreast," Sakura snarled back. She clenched her fists. She didn't know what to do, but she hoped, dearly, that Naruto had some sort of plan that put him on the side of Konoha. If it didn't, she'd have to kill him. She didn't want to kill him, but she had to, because if the Hokage ordered, she would obey, gladly. "Enough with the brat, Granny," Naruto retorted calmly. "You aren't squeaky clean yourself, and neither is the Mizukage or the Raikage. We're all backstabbing bastards of the worst kind, or we wouldn't be ninjas, and we certainly wouldn't be Kage." Tsunade's eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare speak of, if the Tsuchikage, the previous one, used Akatsuki as a mercenary group to further his goals," Naruto said, a silly smirk on his face. "The Mizukage used the group's connection with Wave to increase its economy and enact piracy acts, returned in kind by the Raikage. And all the while, Naruto sang, the smugness in his smile never faltering. When the Akatsuki gathered a tailed beast and extracted it, it ended up deep within the belly of Konoha, because you had an insider into the organization from the very beginning. The Reikage looked towards Tsunade, who remained quiet and still. And that is where the two tails ended up, didn't she? You took her out, absorbed her beast in the statue. Naruto grinned. And then did what? Say she escaped in the night? Hokage. A hissed. Come off the high horse, Reikage. Tsunade retorted brusquely. Remember the Hyuga incident. You can't blame us for not trusting your word, just like you shouldn't trust that of the Tsuchikage. We have deals and peace accords in place. A retorted. They're but paper and ink. Tsunade clipped. And we're at war now, so those accords are null and void. The Reikage was about to speak again, but Naruto inclined his head to the side. At the cost of repeating myself, there's a reason I called for this peace meeting, and it was not to enter the fray of the war. He calmly brought up his right hand, palm upwards, and then, with a smug grin, clenched it. Surrender, all of you, to the might of IWA. All three Kage stared at the fourth, as if he had grown a second head. The Mizukage was the first to speak, and she chuckled loudly. Shaking her head, she smiled with her full lips, an arm under her breasts, before replying with a smug tone. Really, Tsuchikage, you're absolutely hilarious. You come strolling in here, revealing such state-of-the-art lies, mixed with a few truths, and then you expect us to believe them? We should believe your word after your claims of having butchered villagers and walked with S-rank missing Nin? Yes. Naruto nodded. I have no use for lies. I'm not good at the backstabbing. If I have to kill someone, I'll go at him up and personal. Danzo would be sad, hearing that. Tsunade quipped. Then again, he might even approve considering how much he's changed. Naruto raised an eyebrow. He's alive? Alive and kicking. Tsunade nodded. He would be proud of your imperialistic goals, although for the wrong village. She chuckled. Still, the joke's gone long enough, Naruto. I don't know how you convinced Onoki to give you the hat, but you're still a missing Nin from Konoha. We could take you back, you know? You have a lot to answer us, but we can strike a deal. Naruto sighed. No. No? Brat, you're not in a position to say no. Tsunade frowned. You basically confessed to starting this war. You're a missing Nin of Konoha, why shouldn't we three ally together to take you out? You trust them to walk over the fact Konoha's been holding on to all the Bijou Akatsuki stole? Would they trust Konoha to keep their end of the bargain, when you've already been fighting each other? Naruto shook his head. Unfortunately, I will not grant you the privilege of signing peace treaties and letting you recover your strength. That is why I'm serious. Surrender, or face the consequences. He turned towards A, still smiling. I know, you're thinking you still have your 8 tails, that in the end he's going to manage, but you see, he'd probably survive a confrontation, he might run, and he might hide. But your village is fixed in a specific location, and I can and will destroy it down to its very last building if you refuse to surrender. His eyes looked over the Mizukage and the Hokage. Same applies for your villages too. Brat. Tsunade brought her right hand palm open down on her table. When you're done playing theater, we can start to discuss actual diplomatic actions and sanctions. Oh no. Naruto shook his head. You see, Granny, I'm not made for politics. I know, I get it. I understand that it's all a big fat game for money, for control of the land, and to ensure more money to the daimyo and so forth, but I don't care about that. He smiled. This shinobi system, how many lives has it claimed so far? You're willing to sacrifice everything, even Konoha, as long as it gets you a world where Dan and your little brother Nawaki are still. Naruto flickered away as Tsunade's punch slammed in the thin air where he had been but a second before. The Hokage had smashed through her desk, anger visible on her face. The 3 Iwagakure genin paled at such speed, not even able to take out a kunai in their defense. Sekhagen actually emitted a girlish shriek. You're willing to sell out thousands, if not millions of people only for your greed, Tsunade. Naruto remarked, reappearing on the other side of the tent, his cloak billowing as the smug smile on his face curled the side of his lips upward. You're sick, Granny. Not as sick as that guy. He pointed to the Reikage. Kidnapping bloodlines to forcefully breed new members. Or that woman over there, willing to declare rogue her shinobi the moment a mission fails. He shrugged. In the end, you're all bad and sick people. Naruto said, I'm a bad person too, but you see, I have it, the only thing that makes me better than you. He chuckled. I just have to be honest. You're all hypocrites, but I'm not. I'm a straight-up guy. I've always been, and I'll always be. He twirled a tanto with his fingers. The one tail, a bit of the two tails, the three tails, the 9 tails, they're in me. I have 4 demons inside my guts, sealed away and that follow my command. Do you understand? I know when someone fears, when someone dies, when someone desires, when someone wishes harm, and I know you. I can read your souls from where I stand because of who I am, of who I have become. He slammed the tanto on the ground in front of him, the blade disappearing from sight as a fountain of blood sprayed upwards. Blood began to seep out of the dirt, as below, a Zetsuclone exhaled its last breath. The tension in the air grew, just like the smell of iron from the blood. And I can sense the spies of the Akatsuki, the very same spies that have infiltrated your shinobi villages, camouflaged as your own shinobi, who are within your centers of command, that are doing their very best to stall this war and make you lose as many shinobi as possible. Calmly, he began to walk back to his seat, giving a wink to his 3 trembling genin to ease them, and passing very close by the Hokage. He looked at her as he would a child, and Tsunade's eyes narrowed in hate. I believe, firmly, that you hold no cards you can use against me, he said as he sat down, clasping his hands together. On the other hand, each of you needs me. I can wait, pick up what remains of your villages, and ensure only those interested in a peaceful merge survive. Ah, the malice is powerful in you. He grinned towards one of the Mizukige's bodyguards. How dare he speak that way to the Mizukige? He's bluffing. The Mizukige is too smart to fall for it. He chuckled as Chojuro paled, his arms starting to shake as he swallowed loudly. You are Chojuro, right? And the one near you is Ao, the owner of a Byakugan to boot. The Hokage snapped her head towards the eye-patch-wearing man. Honorable Hokage, calm down and return to your seat, Nifune said crisply, eyeing Tsunade. She grumbled but obeyed. A moment of silence passed, with the smirk on Naruto's face growing more insulting to the eyes of those around him with each passing second. The only ones who calmed down were the Awagakure's genin, because they had their Tsuchikage in front of them, and that was all they needed. Boy! A hissed out. Onoki was a fool to choose you, and an even greater fool to let you come here unattended. We still have enough troops to take you on. And we will join this battle against you, the Mizukige said smoothly, to recover what we have lost. She eyed the sword. And get reparation money. It's always about the money, isn't it? Naruto said dryly. Money, power, bloodlines, blood, Naruto said. It's always about that. It's never about the people. He hissed. The ground trembled. It's never about those who suffer, or dig in the mud, or grip with their hands barbed wire to claw their way out. His eyes shone with fury. You have forgotten what it means, to claw and pray for your life in the thickest of despairs. He looked at each of the Kage present, before calmly adding to his words. I will destroy this world where human lives are sacrificed without a thought, and I will strip you of the power that you use without respect. I will break your spines and chew your hearts still beating out of your chests, and I'll make sure your people watch as I do that. I don't want to, but I will. You don't wish to submit. You don't wish to be known as the last Kage of your villages. He drummed with his right hand on the table. Konoha would rather release the Akatsuki's trump card, hoping it would aim at me first. It just might work. First, the Akatsuki will aim to capture the 8 tails, and if Konoha releases the statue, then it will be that way, and Kumo will be no more. When they'll come for IWA, Konoha will take care of going for Kiri. He dismissed the words out of Tsunade's throat with a hand wave, staring her down. A weakened Kiri, a destroyed Kumo, and the bloodshed of Yuzushiogakure would be enough of a reason for you to betray your alliance with Mist. He looked up, to the top of the tent. Suna's attack from the south would prevent it, of course. It would come as a surprise, a backstabbing attempt, but it would damage Konoha irreversibly. In the end, only 2 forces would remain to duke it out, Awagakure against Akatsuki, with Amigakure on their side. Silence fell as Naruto's eyes turned crimson. It's funny how Tsunade of the Sannin isn't even gasping at the mention of a Suna attack on Konoha. He chuckled. Then again, Orochimaru told her of that part of the plan, but for the sake of her beloved ones? Who cares if thousands die, right? He looked sharply at her, and she winced. Naruto continued a moment later. And how many will die for it? How many will die crying for their loved ones? How many must suffer, for the desires of mad men in power? I'm done listening to a child. A hissed. Oanoki should have come himself. The Reikage stood. If you end the peace talks, Naruto replied calmly, I will kill you the moment you step out of the tent. Naruto calmly tapped his fingers together. How fast are you, Reikage? His grin turned positively ferocious. And how many shinobi do you want to sacrifice for your thirst of power, of greatness? The Reikage gripped on Naruto's neck the next instant, so fast he was like a flash of thunder. Empty threats don't scare me, brat. The crimson eyes of Naruto stared into the dark ones of A, until Naruto's right hand gripped onto the Reikage's arm guard and pressed down hard upon it. The arm guard shattered in splinters as the Reikage let go of the hold, jumping back. Please! Mifune spoke crisply for the first time since the meeting began. Contain yourself! This meeting is a farce, the Mizukage said, standing up next. All I've heard are empty threats and insults, but not a single good reason to end the war. If anything, the most sensible option was to ally to strike down the Tsuchikage. It hurts to be a cold, cruel hag with no man willing to marry you, right? Naruto said, flashing a smile at Mei. The thick silence turned frosty. Tsuchikage-sama, Mifune said warningly, but Naruto raised a hand in his direction. You are all conceited bigots, Naruto hissed. You'd rather gamble with the lives of your shinobi, of your men, than bow your head to someone stronger than you. He stood up. And you won't understand, no matter how hard I try. He clenched his fists. Very well then, he said crisply. I don't need to hear your words any longer. I can feel your malice, I can hear your greed and your fear, oh, and how it oozes out of your souls, no matter how hard you try to hide it. He spat to the side. I made my choice. His eyes burned as he spoke, while chakra began to slowly bubble out of his shoulders. Tsuchikage! Control yourself! Mifune exclaimed. Enough is enough, Naruto continued. He slammed his fists together. You think me a child? Then come on, Reikage-chan, he hissed. Brat! Tsunade barked. Instead of trying to make us angry, and you're making a great job at it, by the way, why don't you explain why you felt the need to betray your village? What is a village, Granny? Naruto hissed back. What is a shinobi? Corals began to emerge from the ground, forcing all of the Kage to tense, as well as their bodyguards. Do you know the answer to that, Granny? I do. We're thieves because we steal lives. We're monsters because we unleash powers beyond our understanding. We're abominations because we choose to use our strength for pain and suffering, rather than to help others. Sand began to twirl as the corals cracked open. But we don't have to be. There's nothing that forces us to use our knowledge for war. Nowhere is chakra actually harmful. We are the one who mold it. We are the one who shape it into a tool of destruction. Now this ends. The peace talks are over. The Reikage brimmed with electricity the next moment. Mizukage! Hokage! It appears we have a common enemy. Brat! Tsunade said, with a pleading tone this time. You don't understand anything, do you? I don't need to understand this world to know how rotten it is. Naruto roared back. His genin jumped back, in fear and shocked, but moved to grip their kunai, and wait for orders. A Kage bunched and grabbed all three of them, and in a flash, they were gone. There are 3 Kage and their bodyguards, brat. Tsunade snarled. And you're alone. Reconsider this. The land of iron will declare you an enemy if you continue to. This is a peace talk. It doesn't matter. Naruto chuckled. How long are you going to underestimate me, Granny? You don't get it, do you? What is there to understand? Mei asked, narrowing her eyes. This was never about making a peace talk. Naruto sighed. I had to know if there was a chance for something more, but with you all, it's impossible. You choose your villages over the benefit of mankind. You chose the nation over the world. You choose your men and women over the entirety of it all. He sighed. And so, I have to make the choice. And I have made it, in despair and sadness, with grief filling my heart, I made my choice. His crimson eyes turned blue. If I win, history will remember me as the man who destroyed the shinobi world as it was, and as the man who rebuilt it, better, from its ashes. The crimson cloak erupted into full force, surrounding Naruto like a shroud, and all it will require will be your lives as a starting offer. He sighed. I'm sorry. He brought up his left hand, palm open, towards Mifune. Corals rose faster than Mifune could blink, binding him and holding him within a cage a moment later. I want you to watch, Mifune, Naruto said. Watch, and when all of this is over, you will refer this back home. Tell it to your men, tell it to your foes, and tell it to everyone who wishes to listen." He chuckled bitterly. "Tell them the story of how the shinobi world burned for its sins at long last." Mei Terumi was the first to react, spitting a glob of acidic lava forward, as Naruto flickered away in midair, whereas the Raikage roared as he executed a lariat to tackle the Tsuchikage where he couldn't dodge. The next moment, Naruto disappeared from the lariat to appear behind the Raikage's back. "Raikage-sama!" one of the bodyguards yelled, before flickering to tackle Naruto mid-jump himself. A sand wall slammed against the bodyguard, the white-haired, dark-skinned boy, holding him into the grip of the sand itself. The blonde-haired man grabbed and pulled him out of the sand, before it had a chance to cocoon him inside and crush him. Coral shot from the ground next, making the tent explode outwardly, as they grew like a forest, their branches intersecting with one another as sand began to drizzle down from their top. Naruto cracked his neck, his hands on the Raikage's shoulders even as electricity rushed through them to him. Both legs slammed down at the same time, throwing the Raikage on the ground with a vicious crack, as the corals shattered, but still wound the skin of the man. Naruto jumped away then, his mantle billowing as he held a hand to still his hat, as the Raikage's bodyguards rushed forth, the swordsman nearly slicing his nose off. "I will destroy this world of shinobi, and I will save this world of men. I will be savior and destroyer both. For I'm Naruto Namikaze, believe it!" Naruto roared with a feral smirk on his face. Tsunade's punch cracked the ground apart in large splinters, as Anko's snake shot forth from the woman's sleeves, while Sakura's thumbs bled as she summoned forth tigers. Chojuro unsheathed his blade, while Ao activated his Byakugan and the Mizukage removed her hat and tensed in position. The Raikage dropped his mantle, craning his neck as he flexed his arm without the wrist guard. The white-haired boy unsheathed his sword, while the short-haired blonde man stood ready with his hands to form techniques. The one who struck first was Sakura. She rushed ahead, disappearing in the thick of the coral forest, as the tigers below her roared to bite down on Naruto. The Tsuchikage sidestepped the first. He unclasped his mantle and blinded the tiger with it, before kicking the creature in midair, making it puff away. The second tiger received an elbow straight through its upper teeth, breaking them as it dispersed too. Sakura fell down from the sky, sword ready to strike at Naruto's spine. The Tsuchikage didn't even turn its neck, but simply swatted away the sword with a swipe of his hand, before delivering with his other, curled in a fist, a rib-shattering punch that sent Sakura to crash through the coral trees. The Raikage sword bodyguard, Chojuro, and Anko dashed ahead next. The snakes tried to bite onto Naruto's chakra cloak, only to sizzle and burn. The boy then ducked the Kumogakure's blade, slamming a punch against the man's elbow. Chojuro's chakra hammer came down, forcing him to hold the hand against it. The meeting of the chakra-coated hand with the sword created an explosion, which blinded Naruto enough for Anko to finish her strike with a poisoned sword through the man's ribs. The sword cracked against the cloak before it could pierce. Twisting his body, Naruto deflected the swordman of the mist. "Chojuro! Get down!" Ao barked, and the kid obeyed just in time to avoid receiving a kick to the head, strong enough to lop it off. In that moment, the short-haired blonde man finished a hand seal, and blinding light hit Naruto straight on. He closed his eyes, and shifted down as the Raikage's lariat came through the next instant. He spun, grabbed hold of the large arm, and then twisted once more as his wind chakra seeped through the electricity, tearing apart the inside muscles and spraying blood on the ground. With a blast, the Raikage slammed his elbow down on the ground the next moment, carrying Naruto with him, and then proceeding to pierce the boy's stomach with his other hand. Naruto retched blood out of his mouth, before he grinned as sand and coral spikes stabbed through the man's muscular body. "Why won't you die?" the Raikage roared, pushing his electrical fist through his ribcage, aiming at his heart. "Because," Naruto snarled as his chakra cloak grew in strength, halting the advance of the limb through his body. "I'm going to change this rotten world, believe it!" The direct Baijidama was unavoidable, when it emerged from Naruto's mouth. A ray of chakra, pure crimson, slashed through the Raikage's head and tore it cleanly apart from the man's overly muscular body. Naruto gasped, pulling the arm in his ribcage out as the wounds he received began to close. His opponents didn't give him the time to completely regenerate the wound, however. Tsunade of the Sannin charged forward, fists ready to strike as her body seemed covered with ink. The punch slammed through Naruto's sand and coral barrier, which rose from the ground to protect him, and halted an inch away from his face. Tsunade's punch with her other hand broke through, but Naruto dodged that, passing beneath it. 1,000 swords struck down on his back from the trees, coming from Anko's summoned snakes. The third tail erupted from his back, swatting them away like annoying flies. The coral forest grew thicker, as thousands of tiny thorns erupted from the branches, forcing the snakes to unsummon. Anko cried out as she hissed, and reappeared near her Hokage. She was bleeding from her left foot, and her left arm had a hole in it the size of a fist. "Bastard got me!" she snarled as Tsunade jumped back, getting next to her bodyguard. Meanwhile, Chojuro charged once more, swinging his blade. This time, it met resistance with another sword. "You aren't worthy enough to wield it!" Chojuro snarled, as the butcher's cleaver stood firmly into Naruto's hand. The chakra cloak covered the blade too, giving it an eerie crimson glint as it held its ground. "No one is ever worthy of holding tools of murder!" Naruto snarled back, taking a step forward as Chojuro's feet slipped backwards on the ground, cracking it apart. "No one should ever be worth anything through murder!" A hot acid stream hit Naruto in the back, but the Tsuchikage barely felt it, as he pushed his strength on the blade. "You should have come with an army!" Naruto snarled as the chakra in Chojuro's blade began to falter and sizzle, the butcher's cleaver starting to grind against the bare metal itself. "Kid!" Ao yelled. "It's a diversion!" Chojuro's eyes widened. The Rasengan tore through his right side, coming from a Naruto Kagebunshin. Noises ceased to matter as blood sprayed out of his side. The Rasengan pushed through his bones, into his innards, and past it. Chojuro looked at the face of the Tsuchikage in front of him with shock. Naruto looked back, his eyes firm and steeled. Those eyes, crystal blue, clear, and with a haunting gleam behind them, were the last thing he saw. "The genin are safe, boss," the Kagebunshin remarked. "I sent them back home with the orders." "Good," Naruto grumbled. He craned his neck. "I'd hate to see them involved in this mess." "Think they'll make a run for it?" the Kagebunshin said. "The Kumo guys won't. Eye off their rakeage," Naruto replied. "The Mizuki's thinking about it. The Hokage's planning to get a distraction into summon." The Kagebunshin nodded once more, before craning his neck. "I take the granny?" "Which of the two?" Naruto replied. "I heard that brat." Tsunade snarled, as did Mei at the same time. Naruto just craned his neck, and then flickered out of sight, as did his Kagebunshin. Sakura groaned, out like a light, her entire body washed with pain. There was blood on her tongue, and her vision was fuzzy. She could hear the sound of steel meeting steel, and the screams around her. She tried to stand, but the pain was too much. Her eyes saw nothing but blurs, and even when she did have an inkling of which blur was an ally and which wasn't, she couldn't make head or tails of which was Naruto. He was too fast. He was too strong. And he scared her beyond anything she had ever thought possible. "Going somewhere, Mizukage?" she heard him say, before her ears deafened out and her eyes closed once more. She whimpered. It wasn't a man they were fighting. It wasn't Naruto. They were fighting a force of nature, one that they could hardly stop. A wave of scorching hot air, followed by the ripping sound of the coral branches tearing apart, reached her world filled with darkness next. "Not enough, Mizukage. It's not enough, it will never be enough. Afraid, are we? Please stop. And I'm going to have to shatter your bones, yes. I understand you're scared now, but you should have bowed. Humility, that's the trick. You need to learn when to keep your head down on the ground and bow to your betters. Don't look at me like that, right? Can hardly fault you when you're beheaded." Blood dripped down her face. She could smell it, taste it on her lips, and it was warm. It was so warm. "Hey, brat." Anko's voice came out rough. "There's no way out. Freaking forest corals grow like fungus, they form kanji, and those end up as the Horatian seal for the brat." Anko coughed, splattering blood all over her face. "Didn't think I'd die here, didn't think I'd die fighting a missing nin other than Orochimaru. Brat's not even good. He's just too strong, a fucking monster." Sakura tried to open her mouth, but Anko coughed harder, before slamming some sharp needles into the side of her neck, forcing her entire body to stiffen out, as her heart began to beat slower. "Don't talk. Fake your death. Get out of here. When it's over, just get yourself a life." Sakura could feel the woman's body fall down hard against her, as the sound of bones snapping echoed in her ears. The original is still dealing with the Hokage. The Kage Bunshin remarked. Who are you? Where is Naruto? Sakura, you know you should really try better to fake your death. The Kage Bunshin said simply, a hand touching her cheek. Then again, I can feel your chakra, so it's a moot point. I'm sure you didn't expect this, did you? Naruto sighed. You're not Naruto. Yes, it's me. Naruto replied. It's always been me. I am myself. I'm a bullheaded young shinobi who doesn't have the time or the patience to deal with crap. I want peace, Sakura. I want it more than anything else, but everyone around doesn't want it. They want to keep it up. They want this corrupt system to persist, to last, to bring forth new wars, more horrible than the ones before. I can't allow that, Sakura. I can't allow for such a world. Naruto would never do this. I saw enough, Sakura. I know enough. Greed. I feel the greed in mankind's soul for things you cannot fathom. And it hurts, Sakura. Men always want more, and they can never be sated. Few and in between are those who say they have enough. More and more is the chant of the others. Money, women, fame, power, and anything you can imagine. I cannot change all of mankind, but I have the power to change the shinobi system. I had a choice, and I chose. You're not Naruto. Sakura. The Kage Bunshin sighed, and gently caressed her hair, holding her head still as she couldn't move. I'm sorry for everything you suffered through just by associating with me. I'm sorry for what was done to you, for what happened, for what you suffered. I'm sorry, and my apologies will change nothing. He grabbed her head with both hands. But I swear you this, because you are the reason I'm doing this. When the dust settles, when the score is clear, when everything's done and war is over, I'll make sure what happened to you will never happen again, to any shinobi, to any young boy or girl, for as long as I will live. Who gives you the right to decide what? No one. The Kage Bunshin whispered. But I have the power to change things. If I do not use it, then what good is that power to begin with? Sakura screamed in her mind, but suddenly it all quieted down. Warm lips locked with hers for a moment, before they separated. She couldn't return the kiss. She couldn't move her tongue, or her teeth to rip Naruto's tongue out, and she couldn't even swallow his saliva, exchanged with the kiss. All she could do was stay still, dumbfounded, and shocked. I answered you once, if I loved you, and my answer was a lie. I didn't know back then what it meant to love someone. Naruto's Kage Bunshin murmured. And I don't know the answer even now, to what love is. But there is one thing that I know, beyond doubt. He stood up, letting her head down gently on the ground. I'll protect everyone I hold dear, even if I have to become a monster. With that said, Sakura heard his steps moving away. She succumbed to the darkness a moment later, a sleep clouded by no nightmares for once, but by the ringing sound of nuptial bells. Even covered in blood and nearly killed by the person she loved, she couldn't help but feel a light flutter in her chest. Naruto Namikaze the Hokage was breathing hard, but she was still alive. The grievously injured Mizukage was on the ground, her spine shattered in multiple points, as the corpse of the beheaded Ao had taken the brunt force of the damage from the butcher's cleaver of the original Naruto. The three tails flicked around, lashing as they slowly turned darker and firmer, a fourth sprouting in their midst. Spears of sand and coral floated around the battlefield, keeping nervously on guard the Raikage's remaining bodyguard, the short-haired blonde man. Anko's dead, Naruto said offhandedly. Well, his Kage Bunshin, as he stepped back into the fray without worry. There is no way out of this forest unless you defeat me, understand this. I wager everything on my ideals, on my decisions, and I am not going to lose them because of you lot. Tsunade panted. If she could simply summon, everything would be fine. Katsuyu could reverse summon her. Yet the pressure was entirely on her. Every time she tried to move her hands into a seal for the Kuchios, Naruto simply charged ahead to wound her, and force her to dodge and block, or risk losing her head. He was getting good at beheading people, and the more tails grew, the faster he became, and the deadlier his techniques. The only reason she was still alive was her own medical ninjutsu to regenerate her wounds. Even cut in half, she'd be able to recover. The Kage Bunshin was hard to kill too. It hit as strong as the original, but the sand shield seemed to hover around him, protecting him from attacks. It made it trickier to get to him, while he could act with impunity. She was going to murder whoever thought about giving the brat the Kage Bunshin. Hokage-san, the blonde man said crisply. If you complete the summoning, can you swear you'll bring the Mizukage to safety? If I complete it, we can turn the table, Tsunade hissed. But as it stands, the blond man nodded. Blinding him doesn't work, but I can sense his chakra, incredibly large as it is, regenerating from the Reiki's wound, and keeping all of this active is taking its toll. And there's the Kage Bunshin to consider too. You want to try to talk to him? Tsunade said. He's got the 9 tails inside him. He can read your chakra, your malice, and he'll know when you're lying to him to get time. I know. She nodded. But he'll answer my questions. I can feel it. He doesn't want to really kill us, but he will. Therefore, he'll take his time if he can. Don't move until I give you the signal. It's not going to work. Tsunade snarled. C, however, brought both hands over his head. Sachikage-sama, she said crisply. Can we talk? Naruto inclined his head to the side. You know, you're a funny guy. Naruto conceded. But I'm not stupid. First, I'm going to gut you both, then, if you're still breathing your last, we can talk. Danzo-sensei used to say that only stupid samurai do battle. Smart shinobi kill from the shadows. He probably dislike what I've done here. He sighed. But I stand by my words. I had to. You gave me no choice. How do you think our villages will take it then? She asked back. You think they won't plan revenge? You see, as I see it, you can't make an omelet without cracking some eggs. I'm sorry it came to this, but if I have to obliterate your ninja villages, then I will do it. I'll save the children, of course. I'll save those who don't want a war, since I can sense them, but those who oppose me? I'll have to. Just like that, no questions asked? Who do you think you are to trample over the history of the elemental countries like that? To just blast your way through everything we shinobi have done to each other? What makes you think it would work? If it doesn't, Naruto shrugged. I'll just have to murder those who oppose my vision. You see, talking is all nice and good, but in the end, the one with the power decides, and those without suffer. Frankly, I'm just slamming your teeth with your own reality. You use violence to keep shinobi in check. I use violence to bring you down, to make you eat the mud and the shit you force down our throats. Why is it lawful to have a shinobi die for his village, but it's not fine to have a village die for his shinobi? Kuchi. A sword sliced through Tsunade's arm as she went through the summoning gesture, cutting it neatly through the bone and forcing her to jump away from it, cradling her soon fuming arm as the wound closed in a flash. Standing out of the shadows of the coral forest, in all of its majestic uncaringness, was a golden-eyed man. Orochimaru? Tsunade whispered. Now. The snake Sannin shook his head. I can't have you call backups. Not yet. He grinned. He turned his head towards Naruto, and clasped his hands together. Namikaze. Orochimaru. Naruto said. What you're doing here? I did theorize it, but I didn't realize you'd choose this path. I am curious. Why? Why what exactly? Why this path, in particular? Naruto shrugged. I had a hunch you'd show up if I did this. A hunch? Orochimaru's eyes blinked. You had a hunch. You're extremely greedy, Orochimaru. Naruto acquiesced. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you go through with your plan. My plan? You're following through with my plan perfectly. The elemental nations will know of war, and they will all be weakened. Poor Orochimaru. Naruto shook his head, chuckling. He thinks so highly of himself he can't even believe he's been had. Your plan is the epitome of greed. You want this world to burn, you want this world to die consumed by its own flames, so that you can rise beyond it as its new god, as its new leader, as a force that no one will oppose, because everyone will bow to your will. You want to recreate this world at your image, and with your perfection in mind. You want to become a god in word, matter and spirit, but you don't want to risk your neck in doing it. Orochimaru tensed. You want to rule what will remain, after we finish murdering each other, and you'll do so with the only tool at your disposal that you can use. Naruto paled and bitterness filled his tongue. My son? The fifth tail emerged, soon followed by the sixth. Why you? The growl in Naruto's throat ripped out like a howl, the air pressure strong enough to tear asunder around him the coral forest, hot waves of molten fire following in its wake as the sand turned to glass, shattering apart everywhere. Naruto-kun. Orochimaru smiled brightly. I always knew you had it in you to put a wrench in my plans, but consider this. He added. You just forgot about the other parties in your war. Naruto's eyes widened as he turned sharply around. The Hokage had disappeared. She had left behind C, on the other hand, who bitterly looked at him with an affronted gaze. You can murder me, Tsuchikage, he snarled, but you cannot stop this news from reaching Konoha. Naruto sighed, in relief. Oh, Orochimaru blinked. You have the Horatian tag on her, don't you? I let her punch me at the start specifically for that. Naruto shrugged. My Kagebunshin is missing too, if you notice. Orochimaru shrugged. In retrospect, I knew one day my big mouth would foil one of my plans. He disappeared before a Tonto could strike him through. C paled. You cannot expect to get away with this. You murderer! Pot! Naruto snorted, hoisting the butcher's cleaver blade up. Meat kettle. The last thing C saw was the blade, coming down against his neck impossibly fast as the 6 tails floated calmly behind the Tsuchikage. One was short and stocky. 2 were long and thin. 3 jagged over the edges, as if covered in chitin's plates. He was a bright orange, but his eyes were the coldest of blues. And his chakra was the saddest one he had ever felt. Naruto, the real one, stood in the field of murdered shinobi and blood pools for a moment longer, before his head to where Mifune stood, silent and with a frown. With a hand wave, he let the man go. Mifune stumbled for a split second, before regaining his balance. You broke the laws, Mifune said calmly. Tsuchikage-sama, you broke the laws. Laws are meant to be broken if they're stupid, Naruto replied. Stupid things must be destroyed, after all. Mifune hesitated. I should cut you down. You and what army, Mifune? You can go, Naruto added. The Hokage had to escort you back, but if she's not keeping her end of the deal, why should I care? Mifune brought a hand to his blade, and then exhaled loudly. I actually dislike shinobi, he acquiesced. I cannot stand them, always dishonorable, always betraying their words, their intentions, their ideas, all for money, power, or more. You claim you're not a hypocrite, but you use peace talks to further your goals, have you not? Guilty, Naruto acquiesced, scratching the back of his head as the tails of chakra began to recede. So, are you going, or the daimyo will hear of this? No, unfortunately they won't, Naruto remarked. Mifune tensed. You can have. I haven't yet, Naruto said. But I can, and I will, if you make this a thing between shinobi and daimyo. Then be warned, Mifune, history is pretty clear on what happens when samurai meet shinobi in battle. Mifune locked eyes with Naruto for a single instant, and then turned his back on him and began to walk away. I will do what honor demands. And I will do what the people need to bail, Naruto replied softly, as he watched the man go and the last of the Bijou chakra leave his body. He wobbled for a moment, before falling down on the ground to catch his breath. He bit his thumb, and with a cloud of smoke a large vulture appeared, its beak smeared with blood. You have called summoner? Heijiwashi, Naruto said. War is coming, and I am offering you a feast to come, and a banquet to begin with. He gestured around him. What says you? Heijiwashi's eyes gleamed, as his wings opened up while he cawed with glee. My wings are yours, summoner. This banquet shall be glorious. As crows began to appear, twirling around the air, he continued. We shall feast upon the dead. We shall consume the weak to increase our strength. We shall devour all that rots. Summoner. He bowed his neck. We shall follow you in war. Naruto nodded slowly, once. Then sound the horn and send the birds to warn Iwa to prepare for battle. He gripped onto one of Heijiwashi's wings to lift himself up. We must strike before the enemy has a chance to prepare. Where shall the battleground be, summoner? Naruto looked up in the sky. Konoha, everything will end there. This is a lie, boss. A condor shrieked, his talons upon Sakura's shoulders. She's with me, Naruto replied calmly. Don't harm her. The condor looked down at the blood-smelling girl, and then nodded, flapping away. Feast with us, summoner, Heijiwashi said with glee, his beak already scarlet. You summoned me, and the price must still be paid. Naruto looked at the corpses, and clenched his fists. His eyes steeled and he nodded. He would destroy the world to save it. He never was one for making things simple after all. Chapter 62, The Final Rise of a Blood-Soaked Curtain. Tsuchikage-sama. The Iwagakure Jounin Council convened during matters of war, and as the 100 and more Jounin of Iwa stood primly to attention as Naruto entered, they all looked a mixture of anxious and eager. A storm of thoughts whispered to Naruto's ears, as he winced slightly, before bolstering his courage and taking the last steps to reach his seat. It was a short table, with 2 chairs. Normally, the Tsuchikage had as advisors his old teammates, and the Tsuchikage who came before, if they were still alive. In this case, there was only Oenoki, his right hand under his chin, massaging it and lost in thoughts. "At ease," Naruto said, dropping the hand on the table in front of him. He sat up straight, and gazed into the eyes of the Jounin in front of him. "The state of war has been declared," he said next, without a hint of doubt. It spoke volumes of Iwagakure's efficiency in training shinobi to be ruthless, that none of the Jounin present dared to even blink, or gasp, or say a single word of exclamation. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Sheesh, give me something to work with," he muttered. "Can't always be the straight man in the comedy," he grumbled a moment later. Oenoki grinned. "We're striking at Konoha then?" He looked pleasantly eager. Naruto chuckled. Oh, he understood now what the misunderstanding was. "Oh no, it wasn't Konoha that started this in order to take me back," he grinned. "I started it, and declared war on all of them." Oenoki's face froze. It froze as the old man took a moment to think through Naruto's words. The Jounin of Iwagakure, no matter how trained they were, began to break their composure. It was one thing to declare war on another country. It was unheard of to declare war on 3. "Why?" Oenoki asked. His tone was calm, collected, and yet the question he asked would make or break the composure and the calm of everyone in the room. "Because we can take them," Naruto replied. "There are, at the moment, only 4 forces capable of stopping Iwagakure," he acquiesced. "The first is a joint military operation of Konoha, Kumo, and Kiri. The second is Konoha letting loose the construct that harbors the captured Bijou. The third is Akatsuki. The fourth is Orochimaru," he added. "But before we can continue there is something that must be taken care of." Naruto turned bright crimson, as his eyes narrowed on the crowd of people present. A moment later, he disappeared in a flash of light. 7 Jounin cleanly ended with their heads detached from their necks, as their appearances soon morphed to strange, white-skinned creatures made of naked flesh. A few minutes later, Naruto reappeared in front of the desk, and gripped his Tsuchikage's hat. There were a total of 387 infiltrated enemies within Iwagakure's borders, courtesy of Akatsuki. Now, the Iwagakure shinobi broke their composure and began to yell. "What the Takeo? Wait. What's going on? Tsuchikage-sama? What's happening? Silence!" Oenoki barked, slamming his hands on the table, before he winced and grabbed his hip with his left hand. "Ouch! My hip! Damn!" He shook his head. "All right." He took a deep breath. "Get those corpses to the morgue and have the medics examine them," Naruto said dryly, gesturing to one of his Anbu, who appeared out of the shadows, nodded briefly, and obeyed, enclosing the Zetsu in a scroll before darting off. "These infiltrators have managed to successfully enter the command structures of all shinobi villages," Naruto said. "They could be anyone, and they could be anywhere. But we have an advantage," he added. He smiled. "I can sense them." He grinned. "Now that we've removed the eavesdroppers," he continued, "we can get to the crux of the matter." He returned to his normal appearance, letting the Kyuubi's cloak dissipate. "Kiri and Kumo have been senselessly slaughtering each other for months already. They won't be able to cope with a war against us even if they stood together side by side, without trying to backstab each other. Akatsuki's goons will do whatever they can to make their alliance crumble, since it's to their advantage to have them all weak, especially Kumo." Naruto began to walk in front of the table, eyeing the Jounin as he spoke. "Konoha's army is strong, but Tsunagakure has unfortunately betrayed them. I timed the declaration of war so that, by the time Tsunade of the Sannin returns home, she will have to face whatever army is at her gates. I also chopped off a limb of hers, but I don't doubt she'll have means to regrow it." Naruto locked eyes with his Jounin. "You wanted your revenge against Konoha, didn't you? Well, I'm giving it to you now." He brought up his right hand, clenching it into a fist as he bared his teeth. "Blood has been spilled for far too long in this world of ours. We have already suffered enough. We will end this world of pain, and we will crush all those who oppose us. Our enemies might ally, they might try to crush us, but we are shinobi. We are those who endure, who fight death at each step and corner. We have bled, we have killed, but we have prevailed over all adversities. The will of stone is unyielding and unbending, isn't it? Then prove it. Who's with me? Who amongst you wants to stand tall in the shadows of the Wagakure? Naruto pointed his extended arm towards the nearby window, finger gesturing to the far-off horizon. We will turn the land crimson with the blood of our enemies. We will crush our opposition, and conquer all that stands beneath the sun. There will be only one village, when the war will end. And I swear you this. He hissed. That village will be Iwa. The Jounin began to cheer, their thoughts brimming with the malice of men yearning for revenge, of people hating for reasons that were as old as time itself, and Naruto took it in. He took their thoughts, their anger, their bitterness, and took a deep breath. Prepare your teams, give order to increase production, Naruto said. Alert the patrols, send messages to our allies. He continued. We will strike where they do not expect us. To arms, my shinobi, to arms, and to victory. For Iwa. For Iwa. Naruto nodded firmly then, and crisply said. Dismissed. The Jounin disappeared. Naruto's cloak billowed for a brief instant as hundreds of shinobi using Shunshin to disappear made the air move. In the empty room, Naruto and Oanoki remained. Boy, Oanoki said. It was only one word. It was all Oanoki needed to say. I understand. Naruto nodded. I can guarantee you as much. Oanoki inclined his head to the side. You play a risky gamble, Namikaze. What can I say? Naruto sighed. He moved towards the window, and his hands clasped onto its edges. Once, I would have said the same for Konoha. In the end, all villages are the same, old man. He grinned. There are always families, children, people who believe firmly in their leaders and those who do not. It's the nature of man, I suppose. I don't know if I'll manage to stop all wars, to prevent all bloodshed, to save the world. But what little I can do, to stir the course of history to a better future, I will take. He looked up towards the sky. Lazy white clouds quietly floated in a sea of blue. I will protect the innocent, Naruto added. If you cannot trust my words, or my loyalty to Iwa, then trust my intentions. Oanoki chuckled. I respect your strength, Namikaze, just as I respected your father's, even though I hated his guts. And I believe you, when you claim that you will bring Iwa to glory. I also know that it is but a step in a long, long run of yours. Then again, we are shinobi, we use the tools at our disposal, and do the best we can with them. Be they barbed wire, or a nation's call for blood, we use all that we can to win. Oanoki said softly. When you'll reach my age, boy, you'll understand that sometimes, the hot-bloodedness of youth can blind you to what lies in front of your eyes. Naruto frowned. What do you mean? I knew from the moment I offered you the hat that you would unleash a war, Namikaze. This large war, is my last spiteful anger at Konoha. I knew that Konoha would never let their Jinchuriki go like that, and the fact that it was you, who started the war? It's inconsequential. We were already planning one anyway. Ah. Naruto nodded. War is good for business, isn't it? It brings up the steel price. Then he inclined his head to the side. And revenge is always a good motivator, isn't it? Oanoki grinned. It's the best there is. Naruto exhaled. An eye for an eye makes the world blind. But if you drive the kunai through the skull the first time around, there's no one to wield the kunai back to your neck afterwards. Oanoki crisply added, standing up from the chair and walking his way next to Naruto. His gaze moved to the city of Iwa, extending beyond the window. You won't ask the daimyo's permission for this war, will you? Oanoki added. Naruto scoffed. Is he going to say anything worthy of attention to change my mind? He is the daimyo, Oanoki replied. It would be the proper thing to warn him about the war you started. Why should I? It will give him plausible deniability if I don't. To start a war, it requires resources a shinobi village by itself cannot solely produce. We aren't starting a war as you intended, Oanoki, Naruto said calmly. Oanoki remained silent for a moment. You are serious then? Of course I am. You really intend on destroying the balance of the shinobi world? Yes. Oanoki remained quiet. I respect your guts, brat, but I'll tell you this now, what you're doing is madness. Why? Declaring war before wasn't mad? No, not if it was a war agreed upon to increase revenue. Oanoki hissed. A war, a real war? One to kill and slaughter until nothing. He turned pale for a brief moment. You are serious, are you not? This isn't some scheme to increase money for IWA, or to give another angle on your person. You really think that, yes, old man? Naruto said. I am not a liar. He added next. And that is why I will wage war. I will not wage a mockery of it, to get money for the daimyo, or the merchants, or the economy. I will wage and I will win a war set out to conquer, to exterminate, to cleanse and to purify. You may follow in my shadow, he said calmly, eyeing with cold eyes Oanoki. Or you may rot beneath the ground. What says you, Oanoki of twin scales? So, this is your will, isn't it, Namikaze? Oanoki asked, quietly looking at Naruto's eyes. It's what has to be done. Naruto replied. It's all for a better tomorrow. You know, you made a mistake before, when you spoke to the other jounin. Oanoki sighed. The will of stone, it's not about being unyielding or unbending. It's not about crushing, or destroying. He looked back to the empty room. No? What is essential is the will inside you. Oanoki said softly, his eyes glazing over as he recalled something told to him a long time before. If you forsake your will while hitting a wall, you will begin to make excuses and obtain hatred in exchange of your determination. Listen now, you have to step forward without abandoning your will. That is the will of stone. He bowed his head once, shaking his head as he stood back up. Youngsters, making old people doubt their words and intentions. He snorted. I was making excuses, I suppose? He wistfully looked towards the village once more. Just because I'm old, doesn't mean I should really play by the rules anyway. He grinned. And I do believe my old teacher was a cheapskate. We should have done a monument with the faces of our Kage, like Konoha did. Naruto exhaled. Thank you, old man. You're young, brat, Oanoki said. But as long as you have the right will, the right intentions, I won't make any more excuses. Just because I'm old, doesn't mean I can give up on my dreams of seeing the world become a better place. He grinned some more. And that begins with grandchildren. Naruto spluttered and coughed, nearly choking on his saliva as he reddened. Gah! Old man! Move it along, boy. Oanoki gave a strong pat on Naruto's back. I'll have your back if things turn sour. I'll probably end up having to carry you all the way. Naruto retorted cheekily. Especially if your hip gives way. Oanoki grumbled, and then began to wobble out of the room. Let's get something stiff to drink. Naruto followed. Your granddaughter doesn't want you, or me, drinking. Oanoki dismissed the issue with a hand wave. I like to live dangerously. It was the first time the corridors of IWA heard a natural and rich laughter come from the Tsuchikige's mouth. Shikamaru, Dickless grew basketball-sized balls of steel encrusted with spikes of men balls made of steel. He blurted out. The abrupt silence that fell amongst the Konoha shinobi of Naruto's generation was priceless. They were within the confines of Hibi. Ami had been granted special permission, provided she didn't start anything, and had taken a table for themselves. Troublesome, murmured Shikamaru with his head low on the table. Chuji Akimichi looked nonplussed, although the fact he had untouched food in front of him showed clearly the gravity of the situation. His hat now covered the entirety of his head. The various operations on it had left him bald, resembling a Ibiki too much for people to handle it. Kiba Inuzuka had a hand on Akamaru's head. The white dog had grown quite considerably now, and easily reached the table's surface. He looked nervous. Amisata looked warily towards the empty seat near Sai, a hand to her mouth. Shino Aburaim quietly pushed his glass back up to cover his eyes, his Kikeichu completely silent. Man, I still can't believe it, Kiba said. 2 years since we graduated, and Naruto's a friggin' Kage. He shook his head. What the hell were they smoking in IWA? Catnip? That's your first thought, Kiba? Shino remarked dryly. It is illogical. Why? I'd think your first thought would be about the declaration of war. Meh, it's Naruto we're talking about, Kiba grumbled. He's a bastard, but even he wouldn't be Kiba, Shikamaru said quietly. He killed the Kage of Kiri and Kumo and their bodyguards, and the Hokage barely escaped with her life. He killed Sakura, and you know how much Sakura cared for him, don't you? Ami tensed, gingerly holding a hand to her mouth and swallowing thickly down in nervousness. Dickless would never do that, Sai said calmly and without flinching. He has big balls, but not that big. Sakura is too scary to kill. Ami felt like agreeing, but she did not speak. Shikamaru looked at Sai and shook his head. Troublesome. Every time we meet, I feel like we're less and less. Where are they going to put us? Kiba asked awkwardly. I mean, when the war starts. It's not like things will change for us. Shikamaru drawled. We'll be doing our usual missions, Kiba. Only with an added risk and cost benefit to it. Yeah. Chuji grimaced. We might die though. Everyone dies eventually, Shino said calmly. Why do I say that? Because it's the truth. I am surprised, Sai quipped. I thought I alone could break the established mood. I am in awe. I have decided. He nodded. I will nickname you Mood Breaker. Shino raised an eyebrow. He said nothing. It was then that the doors of the Hibi opened to admit Niji Hyuga, who came in with a tired look in his mismatched eyes, deep rings around them. Hyuga, Sai said calmly. It's strange to see you here, I called him. Shikamaru said. Nara. Niji replied crisply as he sat down in front of him, in the empty seat near Sai. What do you want? I'm busy. You don't look so good. Shikamaru replied. It's none of your business. Niji spat out, before closing his eyes and rubbing them tiredly. Is Hinata all right? Kiba asked, worry in his voice. She hasn't changed, Niji said. His voice laced with barely contained contempt. She's still rambling about demons. She tried to take her life, again, last night. He exhaled loudly. I don't know what to do. For the elders, she's as good as dead. I need a favor, Niji, Shikamaru said. Niji looked back at the Nara, and waited to hear what it would be. When he did, he shook his head. No. Niji, no. Damn it. Shikamaru blurted out. You were one of the best genin. Don't tell me you haven't kept up practice. We could use you out in the field. If I leave, who will take care of Hinata? If it hadn't been for my paranoia and keeping an eye out on her every night, she'd be dead already. I can't trust the medics around her to always look after her. She has decided to let go, Sai said dryly. Shouldn't you honor that? Niji turned, baring his teeth in a snarl towards Sai, who simply looked nonplussed at the show. The raven-haired boy inclined his head to the side and spoke clearly. We all make choices, Hyuga. I made mine a long time ago. If Hinata has decided to go, if she can no longer withstand this world, then let her go. Let her find peace in the other one. You cannot help those who do not wish to be helped. You're speaking a bunch of crap, Sai, even for your standards. Kiba snarled. Shino pushed the bridge of his glasses back up. I would advise you against saying such things in close proximity of a Jukin user. Why? Because they're renowned for their taijutsu prowess. You have no idea what Hinata went through. Niji hissed. And she lost her hero, and so what? Sai replied dryly. If she is such a weak-willed person, unfit for the shinobi business, why does she get preferential treatment? She's a weight on Konoha's resources, and when the war will start, she will be discharged. You know that. I know that. Everyone knows that. She will hang herself the moment she is out of constraints, or bite her tongue off. Niji winced. She tried that already? Sai said dryly, before continuing. Her life's already forfeit. Yours doesn't have to be. Let her go. He stood up. There's no use in running after a romance that can never be. That is what my master used to say. In this case, I suppose there's no use in running after someone who doesn't wish to be helped. Sai, where are you going? Shikamaru asked, looking up at him. I understand your wish to form a division before Konoha's military assign us to the field, Nara, but I have a duty to my master and to Konoha as its next seal master now. Sai exhaled. Silently, he walked outside. Niji stood up a moment later, and left in a hurry. Shikamaru sighed, and slammed his head against the table. Ami spoke for the first time, in a raucous and soft voice. What was your plan, Shika? We form a team, and get a long-term mission before they've properly done the teams, Shikamaru said softly. We're 5, so I thought I'd call along Niji to complete a 2-team mission parameter. I knew Sai was going to leave, and hoped for the backup. Apparently, it didn't go the way I wanted. Ami grimaced. Some things never do, she softly whispered. She blinked. What about Sasuke? Kiba turned to look at Ami, and opened his mouth. He closed it a moment later. The Uchiha? Shikamaru said. Didn't he drop out? I never understood why he didn't get new eyes. Something about his Uchiha blood or similar. Ami acquiesced. But Sasuke might accept if you explain the situation properly. You didn't plan anything too risky to take as a mission, right? Shikamaru shook his head. They never allowed the Uchiha to leave Konoha. Ami bit her lips. Kiba clapped his hands together. I've got it. Everyone, even Shino, turned to look at Kiba as if he had grown a second head. There's someone else we can ask. Kiba continued, a grin on his face. You know that redhead? Shikamaru's eyebrows rose. You mean Karen? Yeah. Kiba nodded. I mean, why not? She's a censor, isn't she? Isn't that just as good as a Hyuga when it comes down to it? And she's a medic too. Did you just have a smart idea, Kiba? Shino asked quietly. The Aburame pinched his left arm. It appears I am not dreaming. Why? Because the pinch hurt. I have smart ideas every now and then too, bastard. Kiba held back, growling without malice in it. Shikamaru massaged his temples. It could work. She was clear for duty last I checked, but she's got a child, doesn't she? Yeah, right, forgot that. Kiba mumbled. Shino nodded. It appears I had no need to pinch myself. Being in Sai's company is bad for you, Shino, Ami said softly. Shino inclined his head to the side, and then nodded once. Troublesome, Shikamaru grumbled. He closed his eyes and dropped his head on the table. Why couldn't life be simpler? Why did it have to be such a mess? He sighed. He somewhat understood why Asuma liked to smoke, now. For she liked to fly. She enjoyed feeling the air against her skin, the sun on her back. For grinned as she twirled in midair, looking above the battlefield strewn with corpses and letting her insects buzz soothe her ears. They were hungry, the poor dears. She was hungry too. She missed the cakes. She missed Naruchan. She missed all those people in Konoha she liked. Now, as she looked at the devastation brought forth near the border of Kumo, she couldn't understand what it was all about. They were at peace, weren't they? Yet there were so many corpses. Why were there so many corpses? Her insects were hungry. She frowned. The sky was beautiful. It was clear, with white clouds floating lazily about. It was a beauty to behold. She always loved to fly free in a sky like that. It was like swimming in a vast pool of clear water. The breeze was lovely, summer-like. She truly enjoyed those feelings. Fu began to hum contently, her voice letting out a lullaby as she skittered around the cadavers like a hummingbird would a cute flower to drink the nectar from. Her insects emerged like large clouds of chitin and claws, buzzing their way down on the corpses and starting to feed on them, the endless cycle of death and rebirth working flawlessly. The maggots would fester out of the bodies, break the eggs that held their kin within, and breed more and more as the corpses would soon become nothing more than empty piles of bones. She giggled. A loud groan attracted her attention. She turned her head, cocking it to the side and frowning as she fluttered near a Kumo shinobi, still alive although an explosion of sorts had offed his right leg into a bloody tatter. Hi, Fu said cheerfully. Who are you? The man whimpered. You can't speak? Fu asked, frowning. Are you all right? Help. Oh, right. Fu clapped her hands together. What happened? Guys in red cloud cloaks, the man rasped out. They came through here. Headed to Kumo. He groaned in pain some more. Please help. Sure. Fu nodded, and then turned to look at her swarms. Pain, fly away. She clapped her hands. The swarms came down upon the screaming man a moment later. Fu giggled. There. No. She huffed, and looked around. Let's go, she added cheerfully, the swarms returning into her red cylinder. The extras hung around flying, following her closely as she began her flight once more. We need to tell the Hokage, she added with conviction, speaking to her flesh-eating beetles. She'll know what to do. Fu nodded. And I don't like the Akatsuki anyway, she mumbled. Who cares, right? She hummed some more. I hope Naruto's all right, she said with a forlorn smile. I can't wait to eat ramen with him again. Kankuro. I don't like this, he said. He was standing next to Temari, who looked as calm as anyone else in the same room as him was. We don't have to go through with this. They were in a tent, near the edge of Konoha's forest. The next day, they would charge in and siege the village of the Leaf, their long-standing ally. Temari clenched her fists. Konoha killed Gaara. Temari hissed back. They lied to us. They purposefully made us starve. You read the documents. You heard the man. It's Orochimaru we're talking about, Kankuro replied. He killed Father Temari. Father died to me the day he turned Gaara into a monster, Temari replied. I'm the Kazekage now, Kankuro. I'm not saying we have to trust Orochimaru, or that he's an ally without further reasons of his own, but the documents were real. Konoha starved us on purpose. Sasori is a missing nin, Kankuro said. You know he's a murderer. Heck, some say he even murdered a Kazekage already. And we should trust him? Suna needs all the help it can get, Temari said. And if he can even the scales with Konoha for us, then where is the problem? He'll go first anyway. I have a bad feeling about this, Kankuro said. Like we're being used, Temari, he continued. I know, Temari replied. Her hands clenched against the borders of the table. She looked down at the maps, drawn to highlight where the Konoha patrols would not be. We don't have a choice. If this keeps up, Suna will starve itself within the end of the year. Then negotiate with the daimyo, Kankuro replied. We're still in time to call all of this off. The daimyo's starving us in the first place. Temari snarled back. No, Kankuro. We're doing this. We're fighting them tooth and nail, and we hope Orochimaru goes through with his side. Are you with me or not, brother? Kankuro sighed. Sister, he said, I'll follow you because you're my sister, but I don't like this. He turned to leave the tent. I really don't. He walked outside a moment later, leaving Temari inside. He heard her slam her fists against the table one last time, but afterwards, he was too far to hear anything more. He picked up the pace, and headed straight to where Sasori's strange new puppets stood. They looked like large and bulky samurai, with some sort of strange substance within them. They had seals and tools all over their bodies, and appeared to be twice the size of a human being. Sasori of the Red Sand was there. He was checking upon them as a doting father would his children. Strings of chakra emerged from his body, attaching themselves to the puppets, and checking their inner workings and mechanisms. Sasori remained quiet. He had probably heard Kankuro arrive near him, but he didn't really care what a child puppeteer wanted with him. If he was in awe of his puppets, and if he was curious enough to step closer to him, then it spoke volumes of his guts. Still, it didn't really matter to him as long as he didn't bother his work. How strong? They will do their job, Sasori replied gruffly. Someone from the inside will open the doors. We will strike. Konoha will burn. He inclined his head to the side, gazing at Kankuro. You're using my old puppets, aren't you? Kankuro swallowed thickly. Yes, sir. Sasori turned thoughtful, and then shrugged it off, returning to tinker once more with his puppets. Silence stretched in the small meadow. Kankuro walked away a moment later. Sasori's cloak billowed for a brief moment, as a light gust of wind unsettled it. For once, in his life, Sasori felt the nervousness of the day before the battle. Yet, at the same time, he was excited. Soon, his puppets would fight. They would kill. They would make the enemy bleed. They would show their art to the whole world. He couldn't wait. He truly couldn't wait. Nagato Kumogakure was the village hidden in the clouds. It stood perched atop a few mountains, hidden by the clouds that gave their name to it. The tall tower of the Reikage had a black veil over it, as the shinobi within grieved the loss of their kage. Already, the Zetsu had done their job throughout the village, whispering of treachery and deceit. It was strange that Konoha's kage had survived, while the others had not. It was peculiar that the Tsuchikage had once been loyal to Konoha. The words didn't need pressing to spread like wildfire across a field of dry wheat. His eyes saw everything. Boss, Deidara said from his side. Are you sure? The missing nin from IWA had lost an arm, and yet he remained nonplussed at the scene in front of him. Conan was by his side. He nodded. His paths stood by his side. I needed to be close anyway, Nagato remarked. Deidara grinned. He licked his lips, in eager anticipation. We're going octopus hunting. You think we can have potatoes with that? Nagato raised an eyebrow. Deidara quieted down. I have found him, Setsu remarked, appearing from the ground. He is standing guard over Kumo's council, over there. The half-plant pointed a finger at the Reikage tower, and Nagato nodded. He lifted a hand to the sky and the ground softly began to tremble. What do you usually say, Deidara? Nagato asked, his Rinnegan moving to stare at Deidara. Explosions are pieces of art? Deidara sourly pouted. Art is a bang! Ah, I see. Nagato nodded. He closed his fist. Where once was a village, a blinding white light and air pressure soon followed. The building collapsed, turning to dust as the giant meteor struck down from the skies with unparalleled destructive strength. In the crater that remained, the explosion having dug more than a few feet deep into the mountain itself, a large bundle of chakra stood surrounding a man. The dark-skinned Jinchuriki of the Eight Tails had a pair of sunglasses, and a bunch of swords on his back. He had the sheen of purple chakra that belonged to his host covering him. Unscathed, the man stood up and looked around, seemingly lost if for a brief second. Nagato gave a nod to Konan, who turned into a swarm of paper. Deidara grinned, and jumped atop his clay bird. Zetsu disappeared into the ground. The large Eight Tails chakra tentacles slammed down on the ground where they had been a second before. Nagato's hand stood up, holding firmly the man's extended chakra shroud. There was no speaking. His eyes saw the rage, the fury, the hatred and the despair of the world. Nagato saw the man squashed and torn apart by his emotions. He saw his soul torn away as the beast took the place. Everyone he knew, he cherished or loved, everyone he came to know and regarded a friend dead. His village was gone, never to return, and his enemies were taunting him. Nagato inclined his head to the side. Pitiful, he acquiesced. One of his paths opened fire, releasing a jet-propelled arm that slammed into the man. He didn't flinch, nor did he move. The second of his path gripped on the chakra, and opened its mouth to devour it. The beast roared and snapped away its limb before he could chew on it, his form growing in size as it transformed completely. Pathetic, Nagato remarked. You lost yourself in your despair. He added. How can I make you feel pain, if you are already blinded by it? A barrier of paper rose just as the Hachibi blew out a Baijidama from its mouth, igniting the sphere point blank against its face. Using a beast's power against them, Nagato quietly said, idly drifting his eyes to where Zetsu's wooden shackles were emerging, sapping the beast's movement. Deidara began to drop his load of bombs on its back, as the creature roared and screamed louder. So consumed by anger, so blinded by hatred, Nagato said crisply. He frowned softly, as his paths surrounded the beast, lifting their hands as they threw thick chains across the creature's length. Then the beast trembled, and crouched down. The ground cracked, the shackles came loose, and with incredible strength, the Hachibi lunged at Nagato once more. He lifted his right hand, and large fist of the ox-octopus halted an inch away from him. The Hachibi flew backwards, crashing against the mountain nearby, leaving behind a large indent as a dragon of explosive clay threw itself around its large body, coiling and priming up for detonation. Art is a bang octopus guy, Deidara yelled with a chuckle in his voice. He's an ox, Konan remarked dryly, her voice coming through the wind. Deidara's eyebrows ticked in nervousness. He's got 8 long tentacles. That's an octopus. He has horns, Konan primly said. He's a horned octopus. Zetsu belatedly grumbled, his voice carrying over too. He probably was close to Konan as he spoke. Does it really matter? He's still standing, Nagato hummed. The brute strength of the Eight Tails is astonishing, but it is only that, brute strength. There are shinobi coming in from the outskirts. No doubt the noise of a village blowing up called them in, Zetsu said. We should hurry this up and leave. We can always murder them all. Nagato nodded, and lifted his hand once more. The ox's hands gripped onto the mountain's top, as he roared and broke it off, before launching it in the air against Deidara. Deidara's bird aptly dodged a large mass of rock, only for the Eight Tails Baijidama to come in close behind it. The explosion made Deidara howl, as he fell off his bird, sharp gravel having thrown him out like a rag doll. There was a moment of utter clarity in Deidara's mind as the ox giant chakra fist came soaring through the air to strike at the Awagakure missing Nin, but that moment soon passed when a swarm of paper gripped him by the shoulders and pulled him away from harm's way. As Konan held him in midair, long enough for him to bring out another clay bird, the old one twirled its wings and transformed into its active state, starting to fall down upon the blasted Eight Tails. The explosion pushed the Hachibi back on the ground, the bijou frothing from its mouth as another Baijidama emerged. This is the most pathetic smackdown I've ever seen, a white Zetsu remarked, appearing from the ground. The Hachibi's roars began to whimper down, as all the paths shattered upon it all they could. Wounded and bleeding, the Eight Tails stumbled up one last time, its breath hard and its eyes wide. Fool! It snarled. You won't best me! Nagato looked up at the beast, his hands still up. I am not besting you, he said. I'm beating your container to an inch of his life, and then I will rip you out of him. I suspected as much, the Hachibi roared. And I have seen what is to come. Fitting an end for a world to burn in violence never-ending. I will bring peace, Pain hissed, clenching his hand as gravity bowed to his will, slamming further on the ground the 8 tails. You are a child toying with things you cannot comprehend, the Hachibi snarled. Play then. Play to your heart's content. When you'll slice your own wrists, I will laugh at you. In a flash, its tails came up, igniting their tip with raw chakra that burned brighter than the sun. Rays departed from the ox's extremities, but one of Pain's path was there, lifting his shield and taking the full brunt of the blow for Nagato's original body. Your struggling ends here, Pain said. Violence never ends, pathetic child. Violence exists, for as long as there is misery, or death, or greed, or revenge, or arrogance, or disgust, or ignorance, or malice in this world. For as long as humanity will exist. I will struggle. I will break free. And I will come for you in the end. You are welcome to try, Pain acquiesced. But you will fail. No one can strike down a god. The Hachibi laughed as he slowly crawled back into Killer Bee's form, leaving behind only a few last words. I met a god once. You are nothing compared to him. Nagato's expression remained unperturbed. Setsu, he said calmly. Carry him for extraction. Setsu nodded and grabbed the man, hoisting him on his shoulder. He is heavy. He'd make for an excellent roast. Nagato shook his head. Setsu. The half-plant didn't reply, but simply disappeared into the ground, the Jinchuriki hanging on by a hair's breadth. Pain looked up in the sky. Now, we may proceed to the 9th tale. A slow clap echoed in the crater, all that was left of the village of Kumogakure. Toby appeared from thin air, his hands the first to arrive and the reason for the clapping sound. His face appeared last, golden eyes showing off his amusement. Delightfully wonderful, he said. Such power, such strength, such will. He grinned. Nagato, Conan said softly, now once more by Pain's side. Deidara still flied above them, staying quiet. We should leave for now. Oh yes, my little darlings, do leave. Orochimaru nodded with a mocking voice. It's not like I'll pass you through with my sword the moment you give me your back. What do you want, traitor? Nagato asked calmly, his path's eyes were all set on him. Calling me a traitor is a bit too much. Orochimaru sighed. I am not a traitor. I am a proud loyalist to my own ideas and personal gains. All your silly words on wanting a better world were but lies. Conan asked. Course they were. I'm the evil Orochimaru, the one who holds no regards or concerns for human life. He said. Personal gain and power is all I need. As it stands, however, there's one little thing I hadn't considered viable that just happened. He said. And that would be? Conan asked. You're tremendously strong, of course not on par with me when I'm going full throttle. Is that the term now, I wonder? But still, considerably strong. Now, I did expect some measure of intelligence from the brat, but I didn't count on him actually listening on to the chakra flow. I can't stop that without binding my chakra, and I frankly like my chakra to be free to go where it pleases. Orochimaru nodded and sidestepped, avoiding a thrown Senbon needle from one of the paths. Let me finish, child, Orochimaru said. I knew the right idea would have been to kill you, but while the most pleasant, it strictly wasn't the rightest of the lot. Nagato's eyes narrowed. If you want to know something else, I'm the one responsible for killing Jiraiya. Orochimaru nodded. Then again, Setsu did inform you of it, didn't he? Nagato's eyes widened. He's working for you. Exactly. Orochimaru clapped again. And you just gave me what I needed to complete my plan. Thank you, truly, utterly thank you. Now, the statue is soon going to be completed, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Orochimaru's eyes bled out into the Manjikyu form. This Uchiha body, enhanced with Hashirama cells, the Rinnegan showed through a moment later, will be needed to control the statue. However, a great power should never have two masters, should it? Conan gasped, while Nagato remained silent and expressionless. You still lack the 9 tails. No, oh no, I have it. I have the chakra of the 9 tails within a nice comfortable wig of sorts. More of a mop for chakra, actually, that I already extracted. It's not enough, per se, but with time, the 9th eye will open on its own, just like the seventh did. Just because you fork a river doesn't mean one of the two sides will dry out, if you fork it properly, of course. Orochimaru sighed. So, to recap. He lifted his right hand to scratch his chin. I have a would-be god I need to smack down hard. I have an upstart warlord whom will be the first to die once I ascend to godhood. What else is there? Oh, right, the 8 tails will need to be absorbed by the statue first. There's no use wasting time on that. We both can't summon the statue as long as Konoha holds it, but Konoha will be a non-issue soon enough. He smiled. See how it all clicks, connects, and works? The entire process, from birth to end? He opened his arms, lifting them up to the sky. So here's how it's going to go, Nagato. Orochimaru chuckled. You can die now, immediately, or live until Konoha is destroyed. Once Konoha is gone, I'll reach the statue and bind it to my will. The fun fact of this is that I play to win, and as any renowned villain knows. He began to disappear in a swirl. In order to win, you always need aces and holes and daggers behind your back. With that, Orochimaru left. Konan turned to look at Nagato's face, and she gasped in shock at the sight. Nagato's face was a harsh and unforgivable sight of pure anger, and as it bled out, as it moved, somewhere, within a small piece of her, Konan knew this had to be a trap of sorts. But were they the baited, or the bait, Sakura? Sakura. He spoke her name repeatedly. You know I'm not going anywhere until you speak to me, right? She didn't reply to him. She kept her eyes closed. She didn't open her mouth. Her body pressed against the corner of the room she had woken up in, a room bare of everything but the minimum necessities. Sakura. He said again, still kindly. How long are you going to ignore me? She would ignore him. She would ignore him for as long as it would take him to grow bored and leave, never to return, never to harass her with his voice, his traitorous face, his presence, and his evil being. He was a traitor to Konoha, a murderer, a missing nin and someone she couldn't kill. She didn't want to kill him, but she had no choice. She had to kill him, but she had no means. Her master was going to punish her. It would be the forest, the tigers, or something worse. Maybe it would be scratching powder, forcing her to survive bound and gagged atop a tree branch, covered in it as venomous snakes tried to slither their way to eat her. That was one of the many punishments, one of the mildest, one she wasn't worthy to suffer through if she ever got back to Konoha. Her master was dead, but it didn't matter to her. She was going to suffer the punishment, or she'd never be a good girl. Her parents always told her she had to be a good girl, didn't they? Even as she, no, she didn't want to remember, she didn't want to, then it was gone. She saw a man. A man with dark glasses, a doctor, and she saw her parents scratch themselves and scream as something within them consumed their flesh from the inside out. Bugs. The bugs didn't finish them. They didn't eat them whole. The doctor stopped before, letting them bleed out. The scratch and claw marks hadn't been done by her. They had been self-inflicted. Even the bites on the arms had been. Her hands moved to her mouth, her entire body screamed in pain at the sudden movement, but as tears fell from her face copiously, the memories disappeared, one after the other. Sakura, look at me, Naruto said crisply. This time, she opened her eyes and stared up, at his cerulean ones. I didn't protect you back then, he whispered, his voice barely a croak. I'm sorry for that, he added quietly. But I'm going to protect you now. I'm going to Konoha at the head of the army, he said. There, I'll root it all out. I'll burn it, I'll cleanse it, I'll do whatever it takes to make sure this pain and this misery goes away. He cupped her cheek. Don't trust me as the Tsuchikage of Iwagakure. Trust me as Naruto, your teammate. I will come back. He began to stand, but one of Sakura's hand firmly gripped his wrist. Take me with you. Sakura? Naruto blinked. Take me with you, Sakura replied. You're heading to Konoha. You'll need someone to guide you. They changed the patrol routes, and you'd rather have an easy time getting there, no? Naruto blinked. Sakura, you can't possibly. No. Sakura lifted her other hand. I am not weak. I am not going to stay in the back as you go, and do whatever you want to do. Am I clear, Naruto? You're strong, but you need someone to watch your back. I'm coming. You are, technically, a prisoner of war, Naruto said dryly. Then you'll have to chop my limbs off, because if I have to eat my leg to remove my shackle and follow you crawling, I will. Sakura, You're still a Konoha kunoichi, you haven't even… How would I tell the other shinobi? Just give me a mask. Sakura continued. Give me a jounin vest, a mask, and place me among your bodyguards. They won't ask questions. I can go right now. You haven't slept or eaten in days, Sakura. Naruto replied. Not since. I'll do that the day I'll die. Sakura hissed back, a fire lit in her eyes. And if I have to die with broken bones trying to make my way to you, in Konoha, then I will. Who knows I'm from Konoha anyway? Naruto exhaled loudly. Only my genin, you're not. Actually in prison, at the moment. Sakura raised an eyebrow, and then she grinned. A mask, a flak jacket and a forehead protector, it's all I ask, Naruto. You can tell them I was your insider in Konoha all along. Sakura. Naruto murmured with a grimace on his face. Why would you do this? Someone killed my parents, Naruto. Sakura said frostily. And it wasn't me. They made me believe it was me, when all along I hadn't done it. The Hokage had to know. She, the bitch, or even the Sandaime, had to know. And I don't care. She bit down on her tongue. It's not that, no, it's not just that. I need to speak with Sai, convince him to be on our side, rather than theirs. I don't know. She put her hands through her hair. Do something instead of just watching you go, while staying here safe and sound. You don't need to prove anything, Sakura, not to me, or to anyone else. Naruto said. Sakura shook her head. I need to prove it to myself, Naruto. She clenched her hands. Just tell me where a shower is, and I'll get washed while you wait. She looked around, frowning. If I'm not in a prison cell, where exactly am I? Naruto nervously grinned. Guest house, he said. Comes with being the Tsuchikage, having guest houses. This one's? Sakura inclined her head to the side. Oh. She remained quiet. Naruto inwardly exhaled in relief. If I ever find out you have a mistress somewhere, I will murder her, rip her intestines out, and make sure she dies by hanging with her entrails. Sakura said calmly, without the briefest hint of emotion in her voice. I will then hang her by your window, so you realize I know and I forgive you for whatever wiles you fell under. Naruto chuckled nervously. Sakura, don't joke about things like that. Who says I'm joking? Sakura replied, closing and opening her eyelids very slowly, before smiling softly. Her left hand touched his cheek. You can't give me a proper answer, Naruto? It's not a problem. I'll make sure I'm the only answer available. She smiled brightly. That does solve the problem, doesn't it? Sakura, maybe you really shouldn't, Naruto. Sakura said sweetly. You'd better break my legs and shackle me to the bed, or find me some clean clothes. Naruto sighed and shook his head, turning to leave. Oh, Sakura added. Unless you want to join me in the shower? Naruto spluttered. Sakura. She pouted. Anko-sensei said it worked. Naruto blinked, and then walked out. Sakura waited a few heartbeats, before pulling out from within one of her pockets a small gelatinous orb. The Sharingan entrusted to Anko looked up at her with its dots. Sakura smiled softly. Her sensei had slipped it to her during her parting words. She grinned, and carefully swallowed it whole. When the time would come around, she'd put it to good use. She had lived enough under the shadows. Now, it was time to march head high amongst the others, shoulder to shoulder. It would take some time, but she was sure that, if she waited enough and was patient, her Naruto would come back. If he didn't, then she'd just have to pull him back with her own means. She bit her lips. To achieve that level, however, theoretically, she'd have to murder her best friend. Anko-sensei didn't have to, but if circumstances forced her to do what her teacher could not, she'd have to murder Sai. She was sure he'd understand. Chapter 63, The Final Confrontations. Naruto breathed deeply, as he gazed ahead at the vast green forest of the Land of Fire. The tall and ancient trees, birthed by Hashirama himself, stood as silent guardians to the village itself. Hidden in the shadows, his Umbu escort +1, Sakura, stood quiet. Behind them, his army of shinobi stretched in a neat column of tents and people. He could see the clouds of smoke rise beyond the horizon. Konoha was already under attack. Atop the branches of the trees, many crows stood in wait. Vultures, carrion birds, eagles and more carcass-eating birds waited, their beaks gleaming and their eyes hungering. Hagewashi stood beneath a larger tree, his wings enclosing his massive body. Around him, smaller birds gathered, still bigger than adult men. "We'll wait here," he said, "until they're done with the battle." He closed his eyes and stretched his senses. He could feel the hundreds of shinobi of Suna battling across the city of Konoha, having bypassed the walls and the sensor barrier. The fight was gruesome, and tiny strings of chakra interconnected between hundreds of strange creatures, powered by a source of energy Naruto had never seen before. He looked quietly as blood spilled on the ground, buildings crumbled and shinobi snuffed out lives. It was a slaughter. There was no mercy in the attacker's wrath, and the defenders didn't pull back any punch. Naruto shuddered as he felt what lied beneath the hospital. The statue was complete. It thrummed with power, barely held in check as it was by his mother's chains. He bitterly swallowed his nervousness as he saw the chakra, twisted and foul, coursing between his mother and the statue itself. It was a sick twist of fate. His mother's chains held down the statue and siphoned the chakra from it to hold it still. In order to do that, the chakra had to pour through his mother's body. The same concept of Orochimaru's flesh monsters, with his cursed seals, was the agony his mother went through daily. It was time to put her to rest. He opened his eyes. He wasn't going to let Suna kill Konoha's civilians, but he wasn't going to save the Konoha shinobi. He had to wait for the moment where the tide of war turned to a crushing defeat for the village of the Leaf, before striking to take out all the remaining defenses. He could end it faster with a Baijidama, but doing that would erase Konoha from the maps, and with it, all the innocents still inside the village. He had to wait. Sasuke Uchiha scratched Shiro's neck, as his ears perked up at the sound of explosions and battle coming closer. He didn't need his eyes to sense the enemy was coming closer. They had attacked with impunity, bypassing all barriers and walls. That had to be an insider's work. He could hear Hana's dogs growl by his side. The oldest daughter of the Inuzuka matriarch wasn't nearby. She had been opening the kennels to release the dogs, and the wounded or sick ones had to be transported away. He had a kunai in his hand. The unspoken order was clear. The enemy couldn't get their hands on the last Uchiha no matter what happened afterwards. "Little brother." 2 words shattered Sasuke's resolve. His breathing hitched as his hand gripped tighter onto the kunai. Shiro began to growl. "Itachi. You are without eyes," Itachi remarked. "Foolish, are you not? Did you come here to gloat?" Sasuke snarled. "Is this why you're here? To gloat and kill me? You are beneath my notice," Itachi replied. "I wouldn't kill you even if I were ordered to. You're too weak, too pathetic, and too incapable to sully a kunai with your blood. Then why are you here?" Sasuke asked. "If you haven't come to kill me, why are you here? To laugh at me?" "I have your eyes," Itachi said calmly. "I stole them from your thief." Sasuke tensed. "Mine are now unneeded. If you begged me, I could give them to you." Sasuke's hands clenched. "No. You're a worm and yet you hold on to your pride?" Worms crawl on the ground, eating dirt and blindly hoping for a better feast the next day. "I like the taste of the ground," Sasuke replied. "You can leave. You will not try to attack me?" "How would I? You have my eyes, haven't you? I never could defeat you. I'm not going to attack you. I know a fruitless endeavor when I see one." Sasuke bit his lips, his eyes closed. "And if today's the day I die, then so be it." "Foolish brother, what makes you think I will give you an easy way out of your pain?" "Brother, I have a question for you," Sasuke said. "You said I was the weakest, the one spared because I was incapable of ever becoming a threat to you. Tell me this, then. Why kill the elderly? Why the infants? You were always strong, big brother, but you couldn't have killed the entire clan alone. You weren't that strong." "Stupid brother, are you underestimating my strength?" "No, I'm not. I'm rationalizing it," Sasuke replied softly. "I grew in your shadow for so long, that when I stopped chasing after you I could finally see you in your entirety. I'm not a shinobi. I'm no longer the strongest of my generation. I've lost everything, and with the closing in of the enemies I know I'll soon lose my life. I found something else, however, brother. I found peace." Itachi didn't answer. He remained quiet for a long moment, as Shiro slowly stopped growling. "You found peace in your weakness." "No." Sasuke shook his head. "I made peace with myself. I'm not weak, brother. I accept myself for what I am. A blind and weak failure," Itachi said. "A human being who can no longer have children, who has no eyes, and who knows will die one day alone as the last of the Uchiha. Sasuke snarled back. But the sun is still warm on my skin, and sometimes, I dream of when I could see again. Even if I had my eyes back, even if I had the Sharingan, I would never use it again. I don't want it. I don't need it. Father would be disappointed in you. Father's dead. Sasuke bitterly replied, I stewed in hatred for a long time, brother. It made me blind in my quest for power. My hatred drove me to isolation and poisoned my life. Now I'm no longer a tool of revenge for the dead. They can howl and scream in the afterlife all they want. I'll live my life, no longer in Father's shadow, or in yours. But you still hate me, do you not? Itachi asked. Sasuke shook his head. I pity you, he said. You killed to test your limits, or at least that is what you told me. You'll never be content, if that is your purpose. You wanted to fight me, and yet here I am, at peace and not able to give you a challenge. Is that why you want to give me your eyes, Itachi? So that I can become a challenge to you? So that you can have a purpose in life again? My answer is no. Sasuke chuckled. I'm weak, but at least I have found things to look forward to. I have found peace. What have you found in your life, Itachi? Itachi didn't answer. Itachi? Sasuke asked after a moment. There was a light flick against his forehead. Farewell then, younger brother. We won't meet again. Hana's dogs barked, but Itachi was already gone, no longer in front of him. Sasuke heard Hana's footsteps near him a few minutes later, or what felt like hours to him. She gasped. What happened? Sasuke frowned. Did you do this, Sasuke? Do what? He asked back, curious. There are. The garden, it's littered with corpses. Sasuke inclined his head to the side, but said nothing. Sasuke? Why are you here, Hana? He asked calmly. Since when are we on first-name basis, Uchiha? You did call me Sasuke a moment ago, he replied. And we're going to die soon enough, aren't we? Fat chance of an Inuzuka going down without fighting. Hana snorted back. He hummed, contentedly. I finished bringing the wounded in the shelters. We should go now. I'll stay here, Sasuke replied. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I thought you were done being a whining bitch who wishes to die. Sasuke chuckled. Konoha's being overrun, isn't it? I'm the last Uchiha, whether I die now or later, when they storm the shelters for the shinobi who escaped there, what's the difference? Konoha's not going to lose. It's Suna and their backstabbing traitors, and we'll get back at them, but we're not going to lose to them. That is your opinion, Sasuke said. I have mine. Yours sucks, Hana remarked, her right foot thumping on the ground in displeasure. He could imagine her pursing her lips in dissatisfaction. Are you going to move from that spot or what? I'll stay here, Sasuke replied. I hold no value to Konoha, and I wasn't the best of guests. I'd just slow you down. Hana chuckled. You slowing me down? I'd just tie you to a dog and carry you away. Sure, you're a pampered bitch most of the time, but you're still a citizen of Konoha. It's the duty of the shinobi to protect the weak and spoiled princesses, isn't it? Are you trying to get a reaction out of me? Sasuke replied. It's pointless if that's the case. Just go and leave me here. And what about Shiro? Sasuke frowned. What about him? He's free to choose whether to stay or go. Shiro whined before barking once. You think he'd leave your side? Have a bit of trust in an Inuzuka dog. Please, Sasuke scoffed. He's an Uchiha dog. Shiro barked again. He agreed. Konoha is under siege, being overrun, and you'd rather sit on the porch of a clan compound with enemy shinobi dead in front of you, rather than head to the shelters? Hana asked once more. I suppose a guard dog stands guard no matter what, Sasuke remarked dryly. Woof. Did you just bark at me? What if I did? Are you telling me there's finally a crack in the asshole known as bitch Uchiha? Your constant sniping is tiring me. Sasuke yawned. Kindly evacuate the premises. Just because I have decided to stand my ground and die here blind doesn't mean I have to put up with you. Oh no. There was the sound of someone sitting right next to him. If you're staying, then I'm staying. It's my duty after all. Keep an eye out on the insufferable Uchiha heir. You don't have to do this, Sasuke pointed out. If it's any trouble, I can slice my neck in. Do you have any idea how surreal this conversation is? Hana asked, suddenly interrupting Sasuke. The breeze picked up. The sound of battle drew further away. I mean, really. Konoha is under siege. We should be evacuating. Instead, I have to sit here and listen to the rambling of a blind suicidal fool. You could knock me out and carry me away, Sasuke pointed out. You aren't doing that, so you're a fool too. You caught me. Hana sighed. It's just, I can understand. This is my clan compound. I'd rather die defending it, and an insufferable Uchiha in it, than run with my tail tucked between my legs. Understandable. Sasuke nodded. He frowned. Is it me, or are the explosions dying out? Well, either we manage to push them back, or they overrun the defenders completely. Sasuke took a deep breath. There's something I wanted to tell you, actually. Oh, well, I suppose it can't hurt to hear a brat's last words, Hana remarked. It's something very important, Sasuke said, clenching his fists against his knees. I don't know what will happen after I tell you, but stop running around in circles, Uchiha. Out with it, Hana said, audibly pissed at Sasuke taking time. We might just die any moment. Well, Sasuke took a deep breath. It was now or never. He took the courage within his hands and turned his head to the direction of Hana's voice. Anyone ever told you that you're an insufferable bitch? There was a moment of complete silence. In that moment, Sasuke could imagine the girl's face. He grinned. She was probably wide-eyed, a slack-jawed expression on her face. Yes, she definitively had that expression, he decided. You just didn't, she snarled, once her brain caught up with her ears. And Sasuke laughed. He good-heartedly laughed, and shook his head in disbelief. A moment later, Hana began to chuckle too. This was madness. Still, in Sasuke's modest opinion, it was the good kind of madness. The cawing of crows on the nearby branches didn't puzzle Sasuke much. Carrion eaters always rushed to feast on corpses. Sasori of the Red Sand, he could feel his heart, the only part of his body he had not changed, together with his brain, beat quicker. His puppets, his masterpieces, they were tearing through the village of Konoha as kunai rained down on their carapaces, explosives dented their surface, and the enemy shinobi died by the dozen to them. It was an orgy of art and blood, and he felt fulfilled. With his puppets, he had once destroyed an entire country. Now, he was going to destroy an entire village of shinobi, taking them all out from a spot overseeing the battlefield. A moment later, he stopped looking at the multicolored screen that controlled his creations, and hastily dodged a gust of black flames. Amaterasu burned through the controls, devouring the metal and melting it as if it were butter. Itachi Uchiha looked at the destructed piece of framework with a bored look, before turning his full gaze on Sasori. To what do I owe the pleasure of your anger, Itachi? Sasori asked, his voice inflexible, although his heart drummed in hot anger. Is the traitor of Konoha betraying again? What tangled web did you weave, I wonder? Itachi didn't speak. He simply brought forth again the flames of Amaterasu, and as he did, Sasori disappeared, avoiding the unquenchable black fire. You're a traitor yourself, Itachi said in the end. Sasori scoffed from his spot in the shadows, as puppets began to appear from thin air. Don't throw pebbles when you live in a castle of glass. My castle crumbled already, Sasori replied. Be wary, the shards are sharp and poisoned. Magnetic sand emerged from the mouth of one of the conjured puppets. Another puppet twisted and spread metallic claws from its limbs, and even more appeared, an army of hundreds. The wind gently rustled the cloaks of the two S-rank shinobi, both staring at each other. The Sharingan spun, and yet Sasori remained nonplussed. You know, Sasori remarked. It amuses me how you think Jinjutsu can affect me. I sold my body to my muse and turned it into art. I see, Itachi said. But your puppets will not save you. Sasori bristled. I'll take care of using your body once you die, he acquiesced. I've wanted to add you to my collection for quite some time now. You and your brother will be the strongest of my puppets once I'm done. The Susanoo crushed the trees nearby, the flaming sword of chakra slamming down on Sasori's location as the magnetic sand of his puppet blocked the swing. Poison-coated needles flew through the air to hit against the Susanoo's perfect defense, before hundreds of puppets broke their wrists off. Chains sprouted from the limbs, surrounding the Susanoo and holding it still. The magnetic sand rose higher, forming an upside-down pyramid atop the constructive chakra. The Amaterasu's heat burned through it, merging the form into a single block and letting the poison evaporate into a toxic mist that floated upwards. Sasori twitched a finger, and the block came down. The Susanu's left hand shone as a spherical chakra shield deflected the attack, cracking apart the pyramid and disintegrating it in the nearby air. Sasori scoffed, and the sand recoiled and struck like a whip to hold the Susanu's limb still. Itachi's sword ignited, and that which came in contact with it disappeared into nothingness. I see, Sasori grumbled. You have the perfect offense and the perfect defense. He chuckled. No wonder you were called a child prodigy. Itachi's eyes bled as he freed his Susanu from the grip of the puppet army. Unfortunately, Sasori said, nothing is perfect in this world of ours. A few puppets opened their mouth, their jaws unhinging with sick rattling sounds as they began a barrage of powerful chakra spheres, which hit against the shield of the Susanu for the most part. The few that went through simply struck the outer ribs of the chakra construct, doing no harm to Itachi himself. The ground shattered under the strain, releasing chunks of earth that broke apart into small circular discs of metal. Itachi's eyes narrowed as they bled through the effort. Sasori merely chuckled. You thought I would not prepare you a proper welcome, Itachi? The mines ignited, releasing clouds of toxic miasma. I took a note out of Daidara's book for this, boy. The puppeteer remarked. No matter how much I loathe his explosions, what works, works. The Susanu advanced, as the chakra shield absorbed the miasma. As it did, Sasori ignited it with a single tremulous spark. The explosion ripped away the arm of the construct, which reformed a moment later. Itachi ground his teeth in frustration, falling down on one knee. Ah, I assumed as much. Sasori murmured. The techniques of yours consume too much chakra. He swiped a hand in front of him, the magnetic sand rising into twin fists that began to hit against the construct. The sword of the Susanu flailed ahead of him, trying to absorb as much of the sand as it could, but more came from the ground itself, and more yet was ground into being from the earth. I did not earn my S rank for nothing, Sasori said. And you are but one man, Itachi. He hummed. A single man can do nothing against an army. The chakra construct disappeared, and Itachi with him. There was a flicker behind Sasori, and as Itachi reappeared, sword poised to strike, so did Sasori's tail snap against the Uchiha. The sword broke, the tail wounding the stomach of the man and batting him away. A murder of crow dispersed from the body of Itachi, which caught as it turned into explosive tags, all igniting at the same time. Sasori looked with disgust at his cracked hide, before emerging from his armor puppet with a frown on his puppet face. You think this stand of yours will change the greater plan, Itachi? You don't know what Orochimaru has planned, do you? Itachi asked back. Sasori merely chuckled. Do I need to care? My purpose in life is puppetry, and now that I have seen the apex of creation, I will assist in the apex of destruction. Magnetic sand shrouded Sasori's body from a torrent of highly pressurized water aimed at his chest. I suppose your eyes can see my weak point, the Sunigakure missing Nin remarked dryly. But is your chakra coming less, I wonder? You don't have much time left, do you? What little I have is sufficient, Itachi replied. Sufficient? Don't make me laugh, Sasori said. You can barely hold yourself together, Uchiha. The Amaterasu flames burned against the metallic sand, once more coating them in enough heat to melt them together. In that moment, Itachi's hand pierced through the molten metal like a spear, crushing against the wooden ribs of Sasori's puppet. It had happened fast. Itachi did not scream. Sasori didn't scream either. You miss, Sasori remarked dryly. And you just lost the use of your hand. Itachi did not move, blood seeping out of his eyes and mouth as the poison began to work its effects on his body. Sasori's puppet eyes looked down at the damage. The iron-covered hand of the Uchiha had gripped his poison tail, and held down on it even as the melting metal scorched it. When the flames of the Amaterasu struck him next, Sasori didn't scream. He simply dropped his heart, letting it roll on the ground until another puppet moved through his will to grab the last part of his original body, the one part he could not change. That was the moment Itachi's chuckle ran deep. The man's eyes closed, and the sword of chakra emerged from his body like a whip, striking at Sasori's secondary body before he could react. Then silence fell on the battlefield as Itachi's body crumbled on the ground, exhaling his last shaky breaths. A figure walked near, crunching on the gravel and the melted sand. Itachi's eyes saw a blurred form, and as the form knelt near him, he couldn't help but smile. You sought out suicide in the end, didn't you? My eyes are blind, Orochimaru, Itachi replied as the light faded away. But I'll let it be. My brother's safe from the likes of you. He surprised me, Orochimaru acquiesced. Well, it seems I'll have to make do with the countless bodies of Uchiha the grass country will bring to the fore. Once I absorb the 10 tails. Itachi chuckled as he exhaled one last breath. Grass burns. Itachi could no longer see, and it was a true pity, because in that moment Orochimaru's face was the picture of pure and undiluted hatred. All right, Itachi. Orochimaru snarled to his cooling corpse. You win, he hissed. I'll have to keep Sasuke alive now, until I find a mean to remove his sterility. Marvelous. He chuckled. Ah, you were such a smart man, even in death you defy me. Orochimaru's golden eyes moved to the side, in the far-off distance where Naruto was in wait. His grin turned amused. Well then, Namikaze, I know you can hear me. Shall we make it a race through Konoha? I have sent my men forth already. He smiled and stretched his limbs. My precious, disposable tools are all in place. What about you, I wonder? Naruto Namikaze. The Konoha forces are counterattacking, sir. A scout reported. He knew that, of course, but he gave the scout a nod and grinned as Orochimaru chakra flared from the proximity of the Suna side. If it continued like that, there would be a triangle of forces rushing to Konoha soon enough. Pain was on its way, and he could feel the anger and hatred into his god body as clearly as the midday light. The main force of the sand was their puppet core. Naruto remarked to Onoki, who stood silent by his side. Akatsuchi, he said next. The civilian bunkers are within the Hokage monument. Go ahead and force them out of the village. Try not to kill civilians, we'll need them as workforce later on. Get 2 squads to do the job and leave, he said. There won't be much of Konoha left by the time I'm done anyway. He then added, with a louder voice. And if anyone has anything to say against saving innocent children and women, he can come up to me right now and speak his mind. Naruto snarled, eyeing the troops now lined up behind him. A few stiffened, before catching themselves quickly enough. You'll have your revenge, men, for your fathers, and mothers, and all the people you lost, but one thing is revenge, another is needless bloodshed. Show yourself superior to your enemies, he barked, swiping a hand in front of him. Now listen well. I'm going in first. Onoki will give orders while I'm gone ahead. Whatever happens here, in Konoha, today, it will forever be remembered in the history books to come, he yelled. And on this day, under this sky, the world will change. He then turned his head to where the masked Sakura was. I'll go with Baku inside. 5 minutes and you start the charge. Then he looked at Heijiwashi, who grinned back with its large beak. We feast, Heijiwashi. Cover Konoha in the darkest feathers and the sharpest beaks. The leader of the carrion eaters laughed as it opened his wings wide, flapping powerfully and beginning to rise. You've heard your summoner. Take to the skies. Devour the weak. Feast on the corpses. Make the dead your strength. The shadows widened and enlarged, as flocks of birds and murders of crows lifted in the air by the hundred, falling down on Konoha as if it were a succulent carcass. It rained spit and saliva from the hungry beasts, as they covered with their attack the entry of the Tsuchikage. The next instant, as Baku reached and grabbed onto Naruto, the blond boy flickered away in a flash of lightning. The moment he was gone, Onoki rose to the full stature he could manage with his hurt hip, before snarling out. You've heard your Tsuchikage. Get your ass in gear and ready to move. Naruto reappeared in a flash of crackling light in the middle of the village, his eyes focused on a familiar form standing with a paintbrush in his hand the moment the surroundings of Sakura's living room came into his view. Sakura stood carefully in guard, eyeing Sai warily through her mask, but did not speak. Sai smiled. It was one of his fake smiles, but it was just a bit more of genuine than the other ones. Sai, Naruto said. 1,000 thoughts crossed through the boy's head, yet they all fell short of the most important one. What are you doing here? Limp dick, Sai replied calmly, as if it was just another day for them. I thought I'd find you here, he said. He looked towards Baku, before remarking. And Kinky Cherry is with you too, I see. Naruto looked puzzled. How? The original scroll for learning the Hiraishin must have a Hiraishin seal on it anyway, Sai replied. I suspected you would hide the scroll here somewhere. He gestured around the living room. I had no idea where. That's not the how I meant, Naruto replied. How I know she is Kinky Cherry? I know you, Naruto, Sai replied with a puzzled look. You'd never kill Sakura. You'd never kill me. I know that. I'm here because I know that. No, how did you know about the Hiraishin? I didn't show you, did I? Naruto murmured. It's because I told him, Naruto. Another voice said, old and weary. Naruto's head swiveled to the direction of a man he hadn't felt near him. His mouth opened and then closed. Danzo just chuckled. Shimura Danzo stood as he always did, a cane in his hand, his body bandaged and an arm missing, with an eye patch over his eye. I heard it, Danzo continued. Your plan to quietly, silently, stealthily, make your way through the hospital while the fight is going on around you. Danzo chuckled. Cunning and worthy of a ninja, I admit. He exhaled. If not for the wounded who are currently being treated at the hospital, and will die if the statue is unshackled and freed. Naruto growled. You're speaking of saving innocents now, Danzo? He looked at the bandaged man, his posture tense and ready to pounce. And how did you hear my plan anyway? Is it tied to why I can't even feel your presence? That is a story for another time, Naruto. Danzo replied. What is more important is about your willfulness in sacrificing innocent people. The boy I knew wasn't like that. The boy you knew changed because of you. Naruto snarled. I'll free my mother after I've absorbed the statue. Naruto said. If I get there first. It shouldn't cause any harm if I do that, no? I was not speaking of the statue breaking free or the chakra released by it. Danzo said. I was speaking of the several layers of explosive seals placed directly beneath your mother's body, which will all activate as a last-ditch attempt to destroy the statue rather than let it fall in enemy hands. I personally inked them, if you must know. Naruto shot forth, hand coiled to strike, just an inch away from Danzo's face. He stopped before he could hit the man, making a jump back and narrowing his eyes. You bastard! He hissed. Danzo said nothing, struggling with himself, as he gripped his cane tighter. I am one, yes, he said. Yet I find it highly disconcerting that you be the one pointing the finger towards me, especially after everything Konoha did for you. Naruto bitterly looked back at Danzo. I'm trying to save Konoha, old man. Just like I'm trying to save as many people as I can. My forehead protector might sport the symbol of stone, but I'm doing this for everyone in the world. Naruto snarled. This travesty of a system has gone on long enough. And you would institute world peace, Naruto? Through what, the death of countless thousands? Danzo asked. No, he replied, through unification, if the need comes to it. Through the destruction of those who cannot be reasoned with. I will be fair, not cruel. I will be just, not arrogant. I will be the Kage, not the Tsuchikage, or the Hokage, or the Kazekage, but the Kage. There will be a single village. Shinobi will no longer fight against each other, but together. They will no longer be shinobi of IWA, or Kumo, but shinobi of the countries. Danzo bitterly laughed. Yours is a fool's dream, Naruto. Change the forehead on your head to that of Konoha, and your dream will turn out to be mine, a long time ago, and it is yours now to carry, I suppose. How sad, Danzo said softly. I taught you too well, didn't I? Even without wanting it, I turned you into me. You did, old man, Naruto replied. You weren't the only one who taught me, however. I suppose I'm a bit of everyone. I understand. Danzo bowed his head slightly. For what my word is worth, he said. I am sorry things went this way, Naruto. Naruto bristled, his eyes narrow and defiant. How can I trust the sincerity of your words? He hissed out. I don't even know what you did, but I can't feel your chakra. It's like there's a void around you. How can I trust you then? I am sorry, because there is no other option available to me, Danzo said. His working hand touched his chest, and he wheezed out with thin lips. The land of the sky held a powerful artificial bijou within its belly. It feeds on malice, on despair, and on pain. I am holding it in check, but in order to do so, I cannot feel hatred, nor do evil. And I should believe you, Naruto continued, because otherwise you'll set it free? No, Danzo said. Because you'll doom us all if you free it. Out of these walls there is enough tragedy going on, enough blood being spilled, that I am barely holding control as it is. Sakura remained tense and silent. So it's a threat, Naruto said. It isn't, Danzo replied. I am not threatening you, Naruto. Whether you choose to accept my apology or not, I have told you what you needed to know. He turned slowly. Do with that as you please. Naruto frowned. You came here only for this? Danzo turned his head slightly back to look at Naruto with a clear dark eye. And to meet my student one last time. He acquiesced. I entrusted you with my family's sword, Naruto. The very same you still hold hidden on your body. Sometimes, one needs to prune the dead branches off a tree in order for it to grow them back stronger. He winced. I think I found my sentimentalist bone in my age. Naruto snorted. It was just about time. He croaked out. He clenched his right fist. I really should hate you right now. He continued. Danzo said nothing, but simply kept looking at him, in wait for his last words. I'm sure you're the one responsible for everything rotten that happened to me. I'm sure if I were to dig down, deep down into your soul, I'd find no true sorrow, no true regret. Naruto ground his teeth in frustration. And I can't help it. I'm cynical enough not to believe anything you say, old man. They're tempting to take at face value your words, but I can't trust them. I can't. Naruto exhaled. I'll go, and I'll look at the situation myself. If what you say is true, then I'll think of something else. Even if I'll have to wait on ending my mother's torment, however. Konoha falls today, you know that? Danzo grimaced, before dryly replying. Only because fire is extinguished with the coming of dawn, it does not mean it will not be lit again, brighter than before, when night comes again. He gestured towards Sai. I instructed Sai on how to disengage the explosive seals. Take him with you, and he'll help. Naruto looked at Sai, and Sai stiffened at his glance. You're still a blank page, Sai. Naruto mumbled. Sai nodded back. I suppose, limp dick, my help would also be invaluable in bypassing the few guards at the hospital. You're betraying Konoha if you do that, Sai. Naruto said. The way I see it, Sai remarked. If I do nothing, you will have to slaughter your way through. I am helping Konoha, by making sure you do not need to kill as many shinobi as you would otherwise. That's a very bad logic, Sai. Naruto said. So speaks Limp Dick, who decided that in a one against many Kage-level shinobi he still had the upper hand enough to gloat. Sai deadpanned. Naruto groaned. How do you even know about that? News travel fast. Sai remarked. The Hokage returned and is currently overlooking the wounded at the hospital. He added helpfully. Naruto's eyes narrowed, before he gave a curt nod. Sakura tensed, gingerly gripping the sides of her mask and settling it firmer. So, you're with us? Naruto said. Sai nodded. Just like old times, I'd say. Limp Dick, Bloody Cherry, and Superior Artist. Those aren't our old nicknames. Sakura said softly, interrupting her silence. Sai shrugged. People change all the time, but we remain ourselves in our core, don't we? Staying with Jiraiya turned you into a philosopher? Naruto asked, his eyes having stopped trailing over Danzo's retreating back, as the man simply scuttled his way in the kitchen, making tea even in the face of the battle outside. I read a lot of books in my free time. Sai quipped. I suggest you assume a Konoha garb for the time being. You might have entered the Konoha barrier undetected, but it will do you no good to step outside without one of these. Sai unhooked some Konoha headbands. They'll let you pass the sensor barrier check. Naruto nodded, and fastened one beneath his arm. Sakura gripped the second, and hooked it to her neck. I am usually partnered with Umbu during my assignments. Sai said. They're momentarily undisposed upstairs. He added, but otherwise Baku and Wolf should be by my sides. Naruto grinned. You've put quite the thought into it, didn't you? Sai shook his head. I am the seal master of Konoha. I'm supposed to be escorted everywhere I go while reinforcing the walls. Let's be quick. I know how to unhinge the explosives beneath the statue, but it will take me some time. The sooner we start, the sooner we can end this. Naruto grinned. Way to go, Sai. Sai made a small smile. This one was truly genuine. Shimura Danzo watched the three shinobi leave through the open window without saying a word, his face tight and emotionless. Fortitude, he murmured. Fortitude. He closed his eyes. He was old, too old. He had watched Konoha fight, he had watched the village grow, prosper, and now, after all those years, after all those sacrifices, he'd watch it fall. How cruel was fate, to prevent the last of the Shimura from sacrificing himself for his village? At least Amaru was within the Konoha shelters. She'd be safe. Your actions are useless. The Zero Tails murmured with his voice barely a whisper within the steel trappings of his mind. I think not, Danzo said. You are ants, trying to claw sand out of a dune in a desert. Your actions lead to your own downfall. You seem to be underestimating the will of humans quite a bit, Zero. You dare mock my name? You are empty, are you not? I cannot foresee what will happen tomorrow, or the next week. Today, Konoha falls. Tomorrow, it might rise again, if with a different name. I have done my job. I have played my part. As the curtains close upon me, I do not feel regret, Danzo said softly, in the empty kitchen. My apprentice was kind enough to leave me a token of his goodwill. He opened a scroll, with the unremarkable chakra ink that formed a multitude of seals. This is the Death God seal. Are you familiar with its workings? You would not. Danzo's hands were already on the scroll. All it needs is but a light emission of chakra. Stay still or you will see what the will of a Shimura is, when compared to that of an abomination such as yourself. He snarled, letting his temper shine through, and for once, with no try from the beast to harness it. You could not have planned this. I did not. I truly didn't. Yet Sai did a remarkable job in finding a solution. I can only fathom from here on out how it will end. I know one thing, however. This seal can ultimately finish even someone as powerful as you forever. Oh, I wouldn't be that sure. Orochimaru's voice came through pleasant and soft, serenely smirking as his arms crossed over his chest, appearing out of nowhere as the air swirled around his point of entrance. You should never take the world for granted. There are thousands of things that might go wrong, he said, and thousands more that can, instead, go right. I am glad you decided to arrive, Orochimaru. I was waiting. Danzo froze with his hands on the scroll and his eyes now fixed on Orochimaru. You're bluffing. Orochimaru chuckled. If I am, it would be the mother of all boasts. Yet it isn't. I can cut open the belly of the Shinigami with an ease that would make you wince, old fool of a withered tree. The snake Sannin simply took a seat and sat in front of Danzo, spinning the wooden chair and placing his arms on its back, smiling and eagerly looking with fondness at the situation. I always enjoyed states of tie. The very concept of tie, or shall we say, face-off is utterly amusing. And do you know why? Because when it happens, you never know who'll be the faster one, who'll be the stronger one, who'll do what. In that single instant, when both sides stare at each other, anything can happen. Orochimaru grinned. Madness is usually what happens next. He licked his lips. And I enjoy madness a lot, Danzo. I am mad, ain't I? A mad child who thinks wrongly about the situation in the elemental countries, who is seeing things that aren't meant to be there. Orochimaru snickered. How can it be possible for Konoha to bargain on battles with its enemies, Orochimaru? How can it be? Apparently it can pretty much be. The pale man chuckled. I refuse to believe you came here only to speak of our past, Orochimaru. Danzo replied. You're right, Danzo. And yet you're wrong at the same time. Orochimaru continued. If this weren't personal, I'd wait until the last possible minute to speak to you. I'd wait until your threat turns to nothingness as the beast within your guts tries to emerge, and you force yourself into the seal to contain it. If this weren't personal, Danzo, I would not take delight in standing here, in front of you, knowing well enough that you lost. Danzo did not falter, even as he kept his hands on the scroll. You're wondering why I'm so sure. Orochimaru grinned. Let me illuminate you. You have two choices, as anyone else backed in a corner has. You can either let the Zero Tails go free, to feast within Konoha, or trap it in the Shinigami's stomach. I can free him from the stomach, so that threat is suddenly void, at the same time. Danzo stiffened. You know I don't trust your word, and neither does the beast. It would have told me of your ability, as a mean to keep me from sealing her, because it doesn't trust you to keep your own words. In order to do that, however, I would never admit my weakness. Orochimaru's smile was blinding. This is why you appeared now. Not to gloat, but to force a stalemate. Danzo continued. I taught you how to think, how to act, and I'm not senile enough to have forgotten teaching you that the sole purpose of a stalemate is to gather time. Orochimaru acquiesced. How do they read thoughts, you ever wondered? The bijou, I mean, they're made of the deepest, darkest desires of mankind. They read it off chakra, you know? I found out. Chakra is a mean to connect people. That's the sage's gift. It connects, or it should. Instead, it's used to connect ourselves to our powers, and the bijou can read through our connection. And after I found out, I knew the only way to defy them was to ignore it completely. I had to gather power from somewhere else. I could not use my soul, you see, they'd read it off. I have always been a complex being. To let someone read my soul, I could not stand suddenly becoming a boring foe. Your experiments with nature chakra, I assume. Danzo said crisply, his hands stiff on the scroll. In part. Orochimaru nodded. I admit. He wistfully watched as chakra began to imbue his right hand, turning it white, scaly, and sickly looking. Playing like a fool, that brat's assumptions of my greed was masterfully done. A liar until the end, Orochimaru? Danzo asked calmly. Indeed, he replied. Or maybe not. Maybe everything I said is the truth, and you just aren't seeing the bigger picture. Orochimaru said. He locked eyes with Danzo. It is time, old man. Do us both a favor and do what you have to. Danzo stiffened. And if I refuse to play this game with you? Join me. This is not a game you can stop playing, old fool. Orochimaru remarked. This is life. The strong winds and cunningness is a form of strength. He added. He's whispering in your ear now, isn't he? Asking you to join him, to help him, and in exchange, he won't destroy Konoha. He's a petty and pathetic liar, isn't he? Danzo's shoulders trembled, if slightly. I always wanted what was best for Konoha. I did too, for a very long time. Orochimaru said. Now I just want what is best for myself. He extracted the Kusanagi. Tick-tock goes the clock. The blade extended, hitting straight through Danzo's chest as the old man coughed out a spray of blood, not moving from his position. An old fool is going to croak. Orochimaru sang. And when he'll die, I will not cry, and that, my dear, is not a lie. He chuckled. Tick-tock goes the clock. Death's hourglass is filled. His smile was feral as Danzo's sight came less. Darkness clouded it, as the man had no choice but to complete his gambit, summoning forth the death god. Oh, how much has the air chilled! As Danzo's will and soul pulled the screaming zero tails within the guts of the death god, the Yami of Shinobi looked with pure loathing at Orochimaru, who simply kept on singing as the body of the ex-leader of Root fell on the ground, stone cold. And if you'll give me a passage, I'll stab you in the back, Orochimaru said, turning to leave. That is my nature, Toad, he continued. And the moral of the story? He sighed as he watched a building crumble outside the window, hit by an explosive tag thrown by a running Suna shinobi. Is that I always win? There was a twirl in the air, and when it finally settled, Orochimaru was no longer in the kitchen. Karen Uzumaki, she should have been happy. She was getting rid of the crying toddler, of the missile-vomiting toddler, of the disgusting pant-pooping toddler, and of the I'm going to make a fuss any time there's a meal toddler. Yet, a small and nagging part of her wasn't happy. It was just a slip, a small piece, a lock of hair to say, that somewhere in her body told her not to give the child away to Orochimaru, to her master. It was that small part that had absent-mindedly sang a lullaby to the child still in her womb. The small part had grinned stupidly when she had seen the child grip her index finger with its strong, tiny digits. It was that small part that liked to play with the child, and that enjoyed watching it laugh and look up with its bright eyes and stupid grin. That part, no matter how small, was the most difficult one to quiet down. Orochimaru's apprentice Hebe was eerily quiet by her side. The girl didn't as much as breathe, and if it weren't for her chakra's light fluctuations to indicate that indeed she was alive, Karen would have thought her a statue, one made of flesh, but still one. They weren't in the shelters. She used her ability to find a pocket in the middle of the village of relative silence and peace, even as she knew that just a few blocks away a shinobi's chakra flared, and then sputtered and died. Hebe kept guard to the only door in the room, a tailor shop, with the clothes still perfectly lined up, as if there wasn't a battle raging on outside. Was it so screwed up to think that a battle didn't automatically mean chaos everywhere? If not for the missing clerk, the shop could have belonged to any village, to any city, and since it was without the window panels broken, it might have even been open for service. Naruto fussed slightly, and she quickly held him to her chest, rocking the baby slowly to ease him back into sleep. Why couldn't they grow up faster? She'd rather have a 5 years old by now. Some were already trained better than dogs by that age. What do you have to fuss again? Karen mumbled. You're fed, you're changed, and there's nothing's wrong with your chakra. What more do you want? Babies are such delicate creatures. Karen stiffened as Orochimaru's voice came suavely from a corner. She turned to look at him, and then at Hebe, who snapped her head towards her master and bowed lightly her head. They sense even the slightest change in what surrounds them. Orochimaru's tongue came out, long and thick, and it moved forward to grab the toddler by the midriff. Karen tensed her fingers around the baby out of instinct, but a mere glance at Orochimaru's eyes and she let go. Her heart wrenched itself, but she steadied her spine and stood in wait for further orders. The toddler cried, at least until Orochimaru's eyes stared into his, and then the baby fell asleep. Karen couldn't help but think that it was excessive to use a genjutsu on a crying baby to make him quiet. "You've done well, Karen," Orochimaru said offhandedly. "Hebe," he remarked. "Catch." And then he threw the baby towards the young girl, and someone shrieked the moment it seemed she was going to let it fall on the ground. Karen's breath returned to her mouth, had she been the one screaming, when Hebe simply held the baby head down by the tiny legs, before turning it upside down. That wasn't healthy, he wasn't a doll to be treated like that, and giving a puzzled glance at Orochimaru. "Hold on to him," Orochimaru said. "Now, Karen, we need to proceed. I trust you have practiced?" Karen hesitated for a moment, before giving a nod. "I managed, yes." "Good," Orochimaru grinned. "Rejoice, soon, everything will be better. Once I become a god, I'll be merciful and kind." He chuckled. "I can't wait." He brought his back against the wall of the building. "But for the moment, we wait." Karen frowned. If they had to wait, why couldn't she hold Naruto in the meantime? Hebe was getting it completely wrong. She shook her head inside her mind. She didn't dare shake her head where Orochimaru-sama could see, and silently cursed her hormones. It was none of her business. Whatever Orochimaru-sama wanted, he'd have. She had to be glad not to be one of his enemies, and that was all. Trying her hardest to ignore the now still and probably paralyzed toddler, Karen could do nothing but wait. There were giants fighting on the field, she could tell. She had one last part, and after that, she hoped her usefulness would still hold for something. What did that proverb say? The darkness is thicker just before the dawn. Chapter 64, The Finality of It. Every inch of Konoha's hospital was crimson, yellow or brown. The walls, the floors, the rooms were packed to the brim, and more than one doctor and nurse walked on the ceiling, trying to push through the clouded corridors packed with the wounded. The shinobi standing outside the hospital cleared away the fields of unresponsive puppetry, not daring to waste explosive tags or chakra techniques while doing so. The intense flow of shinobi from outside to the inside carrying wounded and the quick rotation of patrols ensured no deep check of the two-hinged shinobi and Sai. The murders of crows that descended on the corpses slowed down the shinobi, who weren't willing to expend chakra on the carrion eaters, and ended up visibly wounded by the pecking of the animals. Heijiwashi was a different set of problems, for he remained high above the village cawing orders to his troops. Even though he unnerved the shinobi, he flew too high for their techniques to reach him. The forehead protectors on their head worked with ease, and as they pushed their way through the corridors, rushing on their way down, no one stopped them. As they descended the stairway down from the 4th level to the 3rd, a loud blast echoed throughout the hospital, followed by a multitude of people screaming. "IWA!" was a common scream in their midst, and Naruto inwardly held his breath as he stood to look out of the staircase's window. After the last time, there were windows everywhere in the building, and gaze at the invading army of Earth. The shinobi of IWA came like a wave, breaking the ground on their wake and throwing javelins of dirt and rock big enough to drive large chunks into the buildings nearby. More than a building fell because of the subsequent tremors, when the large cracks that spread through their facades widened considerably. In that moment, the larger birds among the carrion eaters descended like the vultures they were, making their allegiance clear as they hindered the shinobi of Konoha. Naruto turned his sight towards Sai, who gave him a curt and stiff nod as they proceeded further down. "We need to evacuate the village," a jounin ordered from the ground floor. "Leave the critically injured behind. Proceed to the passages." The ground trembled again. A slab of concrete fell from the ceiling, the hospital creaking in its entirety under the strain of the quakes. Sai rushed ahead for the lower levels, ignoring the shocked looks of the people trying to escape the hellish place, soon to fall over their heads if the barrage kept up. They couldn't have moved the statue away, tied as it was to his mother, but Naruto knew without a doubt they'd have increased security around it. It was the minimum. Sai didn't look bothered as he passed by a surprised group of jounin, and since they didn't raise an alarm, it probably was because the 2 rogue members of Team 13 did indeed move as a couple of umbuwood. The granny had increased the security to the point of having multiple jounin assigned to the normally secret compartment, and this time, there were seals reinforcing the walls. Sai didn't need more than a quick flick of his paintbrush to pass through, probably knowing the key to momentarily deactivate them. Just like that, easily, they went through without bloodshed. Naruto felt his stomach lurch and twist inside him as he gazed upon the statue of the Jubi, with all of its eyes, except for one, open. It thrummed with power, and chakra literally evaporated from its skin. Yet the golden chains of his mother still held it firmly in place. Overlooking the pit, just next to where the statue remained fixed by the chains, was the command of the defenses of Konoha. Tsunade herself looked painstakingly worried as she looked through the maps, while Kakashi Hatake overlooked the proceedings with his Ika tucked beneath his armpit. Asuma Sarutobi was next to him, probably tasked with guarding the Hokage. Inoichi Yamanaka held his concentration firmly on the barrier sphere, while Shikaku Nara held a hand against his shoulder, delivering orders as quickly as he could think about them. "We can't last against all of them," Tsunade said. She looked up from the map, and saw Sai reach for her. Naruto and Sakura fell in behind him, perfectly into their ploy as Baku and Wolf. "Hokage-sama," Sai said smoothly. "Should I proceed with the unsealing?" Asuma's face turned hard. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. "Not yet," Tsunade said, clenching her fist. "No matter how small it is, if there's still a bit of hope, we won't proceed." "Hokage-sama! They're targeting the shelters!" Shikaku roared. "Permission to disperse civilians!" Tsunade's face turned pale. "That brat!" she snarled. "Has he no mercy?" "Permission granted!" Shikaku returned silent. The air grew thicker with tension with each passing moment. Sai merely inclined his head to the side, standing in wait. The village of Konoha was lost, and Naruto was there, watching with his own eyes as it fell. The statue thrummed, its mouth trying to crack itself open, but held tightly down by the clinking chains of gold chakra. "We'll wait until they're all within the village, Sai," Tsunade said. "Then we'll detonate it. The rest of you out," Tsunade barked. "I'll need to stay until everyone's evacuated, Hokage-sama," Shikaku said dryly. "I'm organizing the remaining shinobi teams into evacuating as fast as possible," he added. "I'm required too," Inoichi continued. "Without the barrier, our troops will be blind in the village streets." Kakashi began to walk outside. "I'll ensure the evacuation of Uchiha Sasuke." Sai moved towards the statue, flanked by Naruto and Sakura. He opened his inkpot and a blank parchment, before he began to draw on it. Tsunade remained frozen, her back hunched, and her eyes downcast, with her remaining hand coiled in a fist on the village's map. Asuma took out a cigarette from his jacket, and took a long puff of smoke. "I was meant to be a dad," he said gruffly, breaking the tense silence. "It seems I won't be one after all." "You can leave, Asuma," Tsunade said, but Asuma shook his head once. "Kurenai will manage. This is more important," he added. He exhaled a cloud of smoke, which began to lift up in the air. "We lost a lot today, but my father used to say that as long as the will of fire burned, there was hope." Tsunade's lips quivered for a moment. "Sensei always was an optimist." An explosion rocked the large room, as cracks began to spread across the ceiling. "Sai!" Tsunade turned. She frowned a moment later. "You didn't dismiss your bodyguards?" Sai stopped drawing for a single second, before starting once more, still as smoothly as before. "They chose to stay, Hokage-sama." Naruto and Sakura both nodded curtly. "I see," Tsunade replied softly. She looked at them just for a second more, and then turned towards Asuma. "Oh, to hell with it. You have a smoke?" "Yeah," Asuma mumbled, handing over one of his last cigarettes and lighting it up. "Smoking is bad for the health," Tsunade grumbled. "Do you know the negative effects of prolonged consumption of nicotine on the body's receptors?" She took a large breath of smoke. "When that thing blows up," she continued, "I want all of you out of the blast zone. I'll stay and hold the fort," she added softly. "And if my word means anything, you can take the hat, Asuma. A hat for a smoke seems a bit too much of a bargain without a catch in it." Asuma grumbled back. "Well," he sighed. "The catch is plain to see, isn't it? Directly attacking a village never happened before, and twice in a row." Tsunade exhaled. She looked at the golden chains of chakra with a sad face. "Maybe it's karma, or God's hatred." "Civilians evacuated, Hokage-sama!" Shikaku exclaimed, opening his eyes and removing his hands from Inoichi's back. "The hospital came down, however," he added. We'll need to dig our way out. I set a timer. Sai said suddenly as rats made of ink appeared from his scroll. 10 minutes, he added. But if they have sensors, they might catch the chakra buildup. Tsunade nodded, and then looked at Baku and Wolf. Naruto and Sakura both stiffened, before giving back a curt nod and standing to attention. I'll reverse summon us then, Tsunade said. When the timer's nearly up, she added as she watched the ink rats scurry their way down across the large pit beneath, where the explosive seals were. Tsunade grabbed her hat, and gently removed it from her head before handing it over to Asuma. Asuma, hold on to this anyway, in case we don't make it out in time. You'd better come and get it back from me. Asuma replied grumbling. I never liked the hat. Nobody ever does, Tsunade said. Tsunade spoke those last words to Asuma, as the man left together with Shikaku and Inoichi. A few minutes passed by in terse silence, before Tsunade spoke again. You can remove your masks, Baku Wolf, she said. I take it protocol won't really matter that much after this. Naruto nodded, while Sakura tensed, if slightly. The Tsuchikage calmly slipped his mask off, letting his cerulean eyes gaze into Tsunade's own surprised ones. He grinned. Hokage. Tsuchikage. Silence fell between the two for a second. I knew you'd come. I never thought Sai would aid you, however, she said, looking at the pale-skinned teen. He was one of Danzo's trained operative. He had to be emotionless, and a perfect tool. I wonder if he simply failed, or if you were far more convincing than him. Either of the two, Naruto shrugged. Sai's apparently been on my side since forever. I just didn't know about it. You're crushing Konoha, aren't you? It's not like I can fault you for this. Tsunade continued. I never wanted the hat. I should have refused it, really. I wasn't even among the one named. It was a necessity. I'm not keen on hearing your reasons, Naruto replied. And you're rambling. Are you expecting a last-minute intervention from Orochimaru? Tsunade's eyes softened up. I'm stupid and hoping he'll come, right? Yeah, Naruto said. He won't. He used you. I trusted him. I suppose it's my fault Konoha's time has passed. Hardly, Naruto remarked. The shinobi system isn't sustainable by itself. He whispered. We hurt others for money, we hurt each other for it, we suffer in order to grow stronger. That's not the way it should be. I have the power to change it. The sage said so. He grinned. And I'm going to change it. Believe it. I won't be able to leave, will I? Tsunade asked. I'm not even sorry about having to do this, he said calmly. I should feel pity for you, maybe, but I don't. Naruto awkwardly scratched the back of his head. I've got plenty of choices. I mean, I spared Danzo, but that's mostly self-interest. I can't risk whatever he has to break free, but with you, it's spite. Tsunade drew breath. I hate you, Naruto said with a small shrug. It's personal. I hate you. I will kill you. I will destroy Konoha. I'm not angry at you, Granny. No, I simply hate your guts. And I hate the third Hokage. And the second Hokage, and the first Hokage, and all the Kage that perpetrated a lie in order to keep their coffers full. He shook his head. And I hate liars. Naruto disappeared in a flash of thunder. When he reappeared, his tanto sliced neatly through the Sanin's neck. The Hiraition tag on the back of the woman glinted softly. As the beheaded body fell with a dull thud on the ground, Sakura removed her own mask and looked at the exit. Had she called out on us earlier? Sakura mumbled under her breath. It would have been a dangerous fight, she knew from the beginning. Naruto replied calmly, looking at the corpse bleeding on the ground, a pool of blood. The skin began to wrinkle, as it turned old, and the special technique that kept Tsunade young disappeared. Why didn't she say anything then? Sakura asked. Sai began moving his hands into hand seals, starting to break down the ink rats into seals of their own, to erase the explosive tags. Because she knew it was hopeless. Naruto replied. She didn't remove the Hiraition tag too. He added. She simply didn't want to see other people die when she could avoid it. She also wanted to talk. You heard her. She was gaining time for the rest of the shinobi to stir clear of the village. Maybe she meant it as a show of faith? Sakura hazarded, while Sai had a bead of sweat rolling down his temple as he strained to keep his concentration up. He looked down, at the bottom of the pit, and the tumorous mass of flesh that twitched and moaned. It doesn't matter, he said softly. You can hear it, But my mother's, she's in pain, and she screams, and nobody can hear it, but I can. She's been screaming, calling out, trying to find a way to stop the pain, and yet holding out for the good of this pathetic village. Naruto snarled. For the good of this world of ours made of murderers and monsters. He hissed. She'll get her rest, and I'll take over this burden. You don't have to take this burden alone, Naruto, Sakura said, stepping closer to him. I can help you with. Naruto shook his head. I'm sorry, Sakura. This is something only I can do. He added. Thank you for sticking up with me until now. He grinned. I don't like the way you're talking, Naruto, Sakura said in a quiet voice. It's as if you're going to go far away. Naruto's eyes looked sadly at the pink-haired girl. I don't know if I'll have what it takes to hold the 10 tails down, Sakura, he said. It might just not work at all. If that happens, in the remote chance that it does not work, I'll have to come up with something else. Sakura's eyes began to water. What do you mean? You're sure this is going to work, right? You didn't just do all of this without. I was never very good with planning ahead. Naruto grinned cheekily. Usually, I wing it up as I go. Sai exhaled loudly and stood up a moment later. It's done, he said. The explosive tags are disabled. He stretched. Limp dick about this, he added. There's Jiraiya's research embedded in the seals too. Naruto frowned. What do you mean? Sai smiled softly. Jiraiya-sama was looking for a way to free your mother from this, he said. He worked on it as a side project, and finally managed something very similar to Orochimaru's seals, without the after effects. He gestured to the ink symbols stretching across the pit. It wasn't tested, but it might work. If it doesn't. Naruto nodded, and began to walk to the very edge of the pit. I guess. He looked at the statue. I'll see you later, he said with a dry chuckle. This will be over in a second. He bit his thumb, letting the blood draw out across his palm as he summoned 3 small crows. Their eyes glinted as they looked around, half expecting praise of sort. Give the signal to Heijiwashi, he said to one of them. He's to send in the crows to get everyone out of the village. The crow in question croaked and disappeared in smoke, just as the second and the third looked towards Sakura and Sai with an amused expression, if crows could hold one. The black feathered birds then flew away from Naruto's shoulder, landing on Sai and Sakura's. Keep a hold on the birds. They'll reverse summon you to a safe place, Naruto said. In case the worst happens. He chuckled. He looked at the statue. I'm not even sure how to begin with this. I suppose the usual way will work. That's all the more reason to let me stay by your side, Naruto, Sakura exclaimed, but Naruto shook his head. Sakura, Sai, he said. It's been fun being with you guys. Sakura's lips trembled. Why are you speaking like this? Why, we've had a good time together, didn't we? Naruto continued with a smile on his face. We fought together, and laughed together, and became friends. He looked at the statue with a hesitant expression. This isn't the end. I swear to you it isn't. I don't know what will happen. I might win. I might lose. I might become a hero or a monster. I wish there'd be a way without bloodshed, where everyone in the end becomes good, and there's peace and no longer war. He flexed his fingers, before clenching his right hand. Do me one last courtesy, he said. Live on. The blast of chakra that erupted from Naruto cloaked him in gold and crimson, before tails began to sprout one after the other, flailing around as the boy's shoulders trembled and hunched over. Chakra can be captured only with other chakra, Naruto said softly. So if this works, I'll have it. Sakura brought a hand over her eyes, trying to near him as she felt her arm held by Sai. You're offering the next team meal, limp dick, Sai yelled. His voice shot over the increasing chakra pressure around them, and that actually shocked Naruto for a moment, before he gave back a warm smile and a quick nod of his head. He brought his thumb up. Believe it! Sakura and Sai disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Then the chakra slammed against the statue, who roared as the chains rattled and broke. Naruto screamed as he felt the statue try to move, animating for the first time in decades. He jumped over the pit, landing sword in hand straight against the statue's chest and roaring his own challenge at the giant monstrosity. I don't care what happens next, Naruto screamed, twisting the blade into the statue's chest. My name's Naruto Namikaze. The statue toppled over, falling in the pit and splattering into mush what little remained of Kushina's deformed corpse. Tears fell down Naruto's eyes, evaporating as the heat of the chakra around him was scorching the statue itself. You want the Bija? Come and get them! Naruto snarled, as the statue's entire being began to crack apart, fissures spreading as the chakra within became too much to hold. You want it? You want to be whole again? Then come on! I'll eat you whole and spit you out! Naruto's mouth opened, and as it did the chakra shroud that covered his body morphed, showing glinting fangs in the chakra that tore down on the statue's head, crunching on the wood and making the construct scream and spray out thick blood mixed with sap. Scream! Scream and die! Naruto roared again. I'm no god or pain, but I swear I'll be your end. Then, the statue slumped on itself. In an instant, it detonated with a blast strong and large enough to wipe out everything within the village of Konoha. A sheer white brilliance spread from the point of origin of the explosion up towards the sky, and as the clouds cleared and the blue turned red, silence fell on the desolation that once had been the village of Konoha. The blast vaporized the buildings near the hospital. The air grew hot, as the ground quaked and trembled, releasing jets of vapor from the broken pipes and the underwater rivers. The treetops burned, breaking apart to their very roots. The chakra washed out a sick black color, oozing from a humanoid corpse that held fawn-like teeth and spheres of pitch-black darkness. The humanoid creature stood on its 2 feet then, and looked around. He closed his right hand, and when he opened it again, the ground lifted and became even. Chakra pulsed and pooled at the bottom of the figure's feet, before washing off in streams across the air. Naruto groaned, and the chakra recoiled like a spring, back into his body. The air itself stilled, if for a second only, and then, all was silence. Grass began to grow on the barren land. Naruto turned his gaze to the puff of a snake, badly charred, which twitched a moment before opening its mouth. Manda did say once that I would be the death of him, Orochimaru remarked dryly, as he stepped out of the beast's jaws, followed by Karen and Hebe, the young girl clutching a small child within her hands. So, how does it feel to hold the world's chakra within you? Orochimaru asked, cocking his head to the side in a grin. Naruto didn't reply. Hard, isn't it? Especially without the Rinnegan, or some form of bloodline to aid you along the way. Orochimaru grinned. I must admit I'm impressed. I was already expecting having to seal away into a newborn child a mindless beast. Instead, I'm finding out you're as headstrong as your mother, Orochimaru said. She never knew when to give up, you see. Apparently, her son found it fitting to repay her by making her but a blotch on the ground. The snake Sannin shrugged. Can you even hear me, I wonder? There's a cacophony in your head, isn't there? No sage training, no nature chakra feeling, no means to control all of that power into your body. You screwed yourself over Namikaze. Then again, I knew you would. You chose to destroy this world, and don't worry, you made the right choice in my humble opinion. I approve of it. This world's pathetic anyway. I'll become a good god for it. I'll shepherd the people to the right path. I'll bring back the discoveries of the old world, and prosperity and all that crap will probably be things I'll do in my spare time. He began to walk forward, hands in his pockets. And I'm sure you're regretting it now, aren't you? But worry not, worry not. He held a scroll out of his pocket. The Zero Tails absorbs misery and returns energy. You are right now an immense ball of concentrate chakra. You're empowered by the worst emotions humanity can feel. And let me tell you this, do you know what is going to happen when I release the Zero Tails and let it latch on to you? Naruto didn't reply. He stood still, eyes closed. It's going to release energy. It's going to release so much energy, not chakra, no, but energy, that is going to flow freely into the air. This world will blow up and become ashes. Now you're going to ask yourself what's the meaning of this, and I'm replying, you see, with an alternative. He gestured towards Karen and Hebe. Hebe here will gladly sacrifice herself with the death god seal to bring you into your newborn babe. The seal will be absolute. No trickling, no passing of even a tiny bit of chakra outside, and in no way will you be allowed to leave it. On the other hand, while the transfer happens, Hebe will gladly send a lot of your untapped power into me. See now, I'm not even going to take all of your powers. Just a tiny bit, the little I need to rule this world and become a god. He shrugged. They're nothing but scraps, when you think about it. Unfortunately, there's enough power in you and so little in Hebe that if you don't comply, then the seal will be for nothing. That brings us to the Zero Tails inside this scroll. Heh. Naruto chuckled. Orochimaru tensed. He narrowed his eyes. Seems like you made a mistake, Naruto said, calmly opening his eyes. Quite a stupid mistake, too. Orochimaru bristled, clenching his right fist. The seals laid across the pit now trailed over Naruto's body, pouring sage chakra into his form to hold down onto the beast inside, which was raging and frothing as it merged together with its kin back to its original form. How? He asked, gritting his teeth. You didn't consider Sai. Naruto replied quietly, his voice carrying over the wind. And you didn't consider Jiraiya. Naruto grinned. Your teammate had to find a way to keep the bijou contained without using an Uzumaki. So, what happens if there is an Uzumaki in his seal? Jiraiya had to use nature chakra with the seal. You couldn't know about it, no matter how much you talked of it with your buddy without tails, because he didn't know either. Orochimaru glared. That insufferable imbecile. He hissed. He sighed. There's still my contingency anyway. He gestured towards Karen. You remember Karen, I hope? Naruto looked at Orochimaru. Her chains can restrain you. I'm sure she'll manage to hold you long enough for pain to arrive. And you're telling me this, Naruto said softly, because you're slipping on your chance of acquiring power. Orochimaru hissed in frustration. What do you know of power anyway? So what if I'm an egoist? At least I'll do good things afterwards. Aren't you just the same? You don't want power for the sake of power either, do you? You want it in order to better the world. You made yourself nearly a god in order to get that sort of power, and nearly a god. Naruto mumbled. But you would become one, Orochimaru exhaled loudly. I know when to fold. Decades of planning gone to waste. I hope you're happy, Jiraiya, wherever the hell your rotten soul lies now. I hope it's in hell, next to Chase Puritans. I have power, Naruto remarked quietly. But I can't direct it. I'm a beacon of it, and it's there, thrumming beneath my skin, but I can't access it. Oh, I see. He acquiesced. I need something else. Something you have, or possess, or will possess. The reason you took over Obito's body. Orochimaru clicked his tongue. I hate it. I hate it when my plans, everything had to succeed. And yet you stand and you talk. You move and you dare to defy all of my contingencies. You are both frustrating and amusing, Namikaze, just like your father, I suppose. Orochimaru growled. And so much like your mother you wouldn't believe. He added sweetly. Are you trying to parlay your way out of your pickle by talking about my parents to me? Naruto asked, his voice filled with disbelief. He would have laughed. If he wasn't sure doing so would probably crack the ground around them and start earthquakes. You never knew them. And who can you ask anyway? I'm the only one who knows both of them now. Danzo is dead. Tsunade is dead. Jiraiya is dead. Many civilians of Konoha are dead, and never knew about your parents, and while you might find someone who did know them, why would they speak to you, Orochimaru smiled. I can tell you a lot. You just have to do one thing, simple, insignificant, and yet very important. He pointed at Hibi. Let Hibi go. Hibi blinked. Karen guffawed. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What? It's the rule of the jungle, Naruto. The rule of life clearly states that the powerful ones rule over the weaker ones. You've got power, don't you? You've got all the power in the world, and you're probably the strongest one, so I ask you let Hibi go. She'll leave, and she'll never disturb you again. I'll even tell her where to go, south and away from here. She has a curse seal on her, Naruto remarked. No, she doesn't. Orochimaru smiled. I am simply paying back my trustworthy apprentice. I'm letting her leave. You already killed one of mine anyway, so please think of it as giving me back a bit of everything I gave you. Everything you gave me? Well, my plan accounted for quite a lot of variables, but I did show you the waterfall of truth, didn't I? I was the one who took you out of your funk of disappearing from the face of the elemental countries and had you take on a more hands-down approach. Naruto did not show bewilderment, but simply looked unfazed at the snake Sannin, before murmuring a soft-spoken sentence. I see. He continued, his tone slightly harder. I don't understand you. Orochimaru nodded. Nobody does. The problem of being such a genial mind is that everyone around you could very well be a chimpanzee flinging poop. Naruto, the baby, began to cry. If I attack, you'll use him as a shield, Naruto remarked. That is obvious, Orochimaru pointed out. And if I ask for him, you'll hand it over because I won't be able to protect him and fight you off at the same time. Indeed, the obvious once more is spoken. And if I fight pain, you will strike when it is the most convenient. Again, that is a certainty. Or I could kill you all now, Naruto said softly. What's an innocent's life now, when compared to the damage pain might cause later if he isn't stopped together with you? Indeed, Orochimaru nodded. You could do that too. Naruto breathed in deeply. And if I do that, one day, I'll start thinking that 5 innocents are better dead than 20. Another, it will be 1,000 innocents for 1,000,000. I have already accepted the necessary losses of many shinobi, of many monsters, of the villages themselves. I've uprooted the system, tore it apart cleanly. And yet you can't bring yourself to kill this child. Orochimaru nodded sagely. I suppose it's because deep down you know you'd never forgive yourself, I wonder? Quite the difficult conundrum, I admit. Of course, there's always another option. Letting her and you go, Naruto replied. See? You did get the brains from your father after all, Naruto, Orochimaru said. I'm glad. If you had been like your mother, we'd never reach an agreement. Naruto shook his head. No. No? Orochimaru asked. Why not? If I end this now, he said, then you won't come back again. I can't trust your word, and I can't trust anything of yours. That's quite the tall order, Naruto. You are, after all, mine. Naruto looked at Orochimaru. Orochimaru grinned. I am your father. What? Joking. Orochimaru shrugged a moment later. Naruto's growl emerged from his throat loud enough to make the ground quake softly, as the lush greenery grew a few inches thicker around them. Well, you are my brainchild without a doubt, a powerful Uzumaki, with the skills of Minato Namikaze and the Ten-Tails within yourself, and soon to acquire powerful eyes if you do manage to defeat pain, and you'll live for hundreds of years with the power you possess. He smiled. There will be no wars as long as you draw a breath, Naruto. Pain wished to make an ultimate weapon out of a statue he would control until the very short end of his pathetic lifespan. He shortened his to summon the statue, but yours is so blindingly long and bright, think about it. He gestured around them. Kumo is no more. Kiri is in tatters. Iwa follows you. Suna is no longer strong. Konoha is cinders and refugees. The balance is broken, shattered, and will never be the same again. There will be only one village now, only one Kage, only one. He clenched his right fist. Ruler. Think about it, Namikaze. I made you a weapon of death and destruction, and the power within you claims for usage. Use it then. Strike down daimyo, rebels and villains all the same. Blast away and unite everything under your rule. Orochimaru cackled with glee. If I can't do it, and I hold no doubt I won't, at least you can, he said. And every day of your life, from henceforth, you will have to contend with the fact that I, Orochimaru, the greatest evil of the world, am the one who birthed you not as a monster or as a shinobi, but as a conqueror of mankind. You always fall on your feet, Naruto said in disbelief. You had nothing to do with this. Oh? I didn't? I didn't force you into choosing? I didn't show you what you needed? Hid what you didn't need? I didn't? Who's there telling you that, For all you know, I'm right and you're wrong. I'm the main culprit of everything. I am Orochimaru. I am the antagonist to the hero's tale, only, with trying to fight me, the hero turned dark, he turned to power, and he became the most powerful creature in existence. Except for pain, Naruto said, he has the Rinnegan, and he's capable of fighting me on even ground. Indeed, Orochimaru acquiesced. But if I help you, in exchange for freedom, Naruto snorted, and a risk of you backstabbing me. I'm not a fool, Orochimaru. We're talking in circles, Orochimaru hissed. And that baby crying is hurting my ears. He looked at Hibi. Can't you make him quiet without killing him? The wind picked up. Small grains of sand slowly began to shift and roll on the ground. The baby quieted down. He was pretty quick, Orochimaru remarked. He grinned brightly. So, Namikaze, what about a deal? I proposed many, and you can certainly pick a suitable one. I think I'll use pain as a distraction to have you lower your guard actually, Naruto remarked. And then I'll murder you and get my son back. Orochimaru's face fell, and he looked visibly crestfallen. Why do you Uzumaki always have to pick the stupid option of the lot? I hate it when it happens. I hate stupidity in general. Maybe because. Then pain descended from high above, leaving the clay bird of Deidara to continue floating in the sky with Conan a few steps behind him. A second before Pain could even speak, both Sai and Sakura appeared in a flicker behind Naruto. Naruto tensed for a second, before exhaling. There's no way I can make you change your minds? He asked, not averting his gaze from Pain and Orochimaru. We're with you, Naruto, Sakura said softly. Until the end. She unsheathed her tanto. Team Limp Kinky Pervert is ready, Sai said, paintbrush and scroll in hand. Can't we just be Team 13? Sakura pouted. She grinned a moment later, gazing at Karen. Karen-chan! I'm going to gouge your tits out and snap your spine, she giggled. And then I'll flail you alive and make myself a cloak with your innards. Karen began to sweat. Orochimaru cackled, amused. Conan remained quiet, behind Nagato, who tensed as he softly stopped, empowering the other paths spread throughout the countries. His Rinnegan blared as it gazed at the supernova of power that was Naruto Namikaze. You have something of mine, he said crisply. I demand it back. Come and get it, Naruto bitterly said. I won't make it easy. Naruto's chakra oozed out pitch black, as if made of dense syrup, before it formed a blade in his hand. Conan's body began slowly to shift into papers, while Karen's eyes frantically looked back and forth between her son and the enemies of Orochimaru. Orochimaru's skin began to rip, as small white snakes broke free from beneath it. A snake shot out faster than the rest, its fangs aimed at Naruto's son. In an instant, Naruto flickered forward, attempting to block the snake with his hand. Karen's chain shot forth to block him. Nagato's eyes spun for a second, as an immense force pushed everyone in front of him away, or at least, it tried to. Karen's chain twisted into a wall and an anchor at the same time, holding her fast as another shot out to get her son. Hebe clutched the baby as she ducked beneath the chain, twirling in midair and flinging a smoke bomb to hide her next move. Sakura spat out a saban needle, which struck the bomb in midair and threw its trajectory off course. Sai's ink animated then, forming a giant ink bird that raised its wings and shot for the sky with him aboard. The air lashed out from Nagato's palms to rip apart Sai, but Naruto threw a wave of black chakra of its own to still the winds. Clenching his fists, Naruto raised his sword just in time to avoid the slash of the Kusanagi against him, wincing slightly as the chakra hardened to hold the blade back. Orochimaru didn't look bothered at the fact that his blade couldn't cut through Naruto's chakra. If anything, he looked pleased. As papers began to float around the snake Sannin's body, now more than half deformed by the white snakes slithering their way throughout his skin, the man exploded outwardly and released a large white snake, the body itself composed of thousands of smaller ones. The acidic fog it released forced Sakura to jump back, avoiding as she did a primed explosive tag, planted by Hebe to make the Umbu keep her distance from her. Naruto, the baby, had begun crying a few minutes earlier, and didn't seem inclined to stop any time soon. Again, Nagato thrust his hands forward as gravity changed to his whims and needs. Naruto held his ground, his solid chakra slamming into the dirt and anchoring him as he withstood the blow, while Orochimaru simply burrowed beneath it. Hebe was too far away from it, but as she turned to look at the battle at hand, a sharp pain hit her shoulders horizontally. She stumbled forward, until a golden chakra chain swooped by behind her to parry the second slice of Sakura's blade. The pink-haired Umbu merely jumped back, turning her attention to Karen as Hebe wobbled a few more steps, her vision growing hazy. Her back burned fiercely. Karen tried to bring her chains closer again, but Sakura was there, parrying her attacks and forcing the Uzumaki to cease her attempts to deal with her. Meanwhile, up in the sky, Sai threw flocks of birds made of ink in the sky as Deidara answered with explosions, forcing a dark rain to fall on the ground beneath them. Art is a bang! Deidara cackled, throwing another of his explosive birds at Sai, who swiftly avoided it on the back of his larger ink bird. Art is porn! Sai shot back loudly. And porn is truth! The hell you spouting? Deidara howled, a swarm of clay spiders jumping off his clay bird. Sai finished his drawing just in time, jumping away from the falling swarm that detonated his means of travel. It was as a giant ink tentacle spread out of Sai's parchment that Deidara began to feel dread. No, fuck no. Fuck it! The tentacle descended like a large hand, trying to sweat down on Deidara as Sai let go of the parchment, starting to run upon his own creation to reach the clay bird. Sick, twisted, deranged pervert. Deidara screamed as he suddenly found himself sidestepping a lightning-fast slash from Sai, holding on to an ink sword. The clay bird shone as it detonated, carrying with it Deidara's clay copy and Sai's ink copy. The moment Deidara emerged from his hiding spot, he yelped and spun kunai in hand to block another ink sword from the creepy smiling pervert. Sai smiled, his creepiness full out unnerving Deidara. "You have nice hair," Sai chirped. "It's going to get all dirty now," he added. "Stop fucking with me," Deidara howled. "Why?" Sai pouted. "We haven't even started yet." A low croak reached Deidara's ears as the Awagakure missing Nin avoided stepping over a toad, before twisting his body to avoid another lunge. The croaks multiplied, as a swarm of toads spread out through the ground. Sai held up his fake smile as he spoke. "I'm sorry," he said. "You have to die now." "Like hell. I'll blow you up too." "No, you won't," Sai said softly. "You're in a genjutsu." Deidara narrowed his only visible eye, before smirking haughtily. For a moment, here. He unclasped his eye, trained to counter illusions, and nothing changed. Wait. This isn't an auditory genjutsu," Sai supplied. "I have already struck you 5 times. Giant slabs of stone, swords actually, pierced through Deidara's chest a moment later. No, the blood pouring from the wounds was slowly coming less. He had been, no, he refused to believe that he had been bleeding out since the beginning. He refused to admit his defeat. The taste of iron spread through all of his mouths, and as Deidara tried to grasp for his ace, for his final spit in the face of death, for his final masterwork of art, ink chains covered his body, holding him still to bleed out in a cocoon of black sludge. "I am an artist," Sai said softly, raising his paintbrush and giving a clinical look at the now frozen statue of ink and concrete that was Deidara. "Stay still, please." Meanwhile, closer to the battlefield, Karen gave a desperate look at the battle and then turned to face Sakura. Her chakra chains still held themselves aloft, but her breathing was quickly growing ragged. "Give him back," Karen said softly. "No," Sakura replied. She didn't even look at the bundle, but simply held it with one hand as one would a bag of potatoes. "You think I don't know you'll try to stab me if I let go of him? I'll keep him in hand." She grinned. "And now, change sides and help Naruto. Just give me the baby and I'll leave," Karen pleaded. Sakura sighed, and flipped a kunai in her other hand. "You're wasting time. Do as I say now. I'm not a very patient girl, Shinaro." Her smile turned feral. "Babies are chubby and taste very good, you know? They're so tender. Baby tigers make cute meowing sounds and moans of pain even as you break their skulls." She giggled. "Now move, you pathetic excuse of a whore." Karen bitterly quashed down her emotions. She could leave. There was nothing holding her there now. She could leave. She had to leave. She was going to die if she remained, or if she obeyed the girl in her folly. The sound of paper fluttering near the back of her head caught her by surprise. She heard the familiar sound of explosive tags detonating, and her body lifted in midair from the sound of an explosion so close to her. It was as if, why was she feeling a headache? Why wasn't she feeling, oh? Her head finished rolling neatly on the ground, blood emerging from its chunky lower half as Conan stood half-formed and half-paper, her eyes narrow. "You seem to have forgotten me," she said calmly. "Bitch," Sakura hissed. She clutched the baby. The damned thing had gone from hostage to nuisance in a flash now. "Fucking bitch," she snarled, spatting out blood from her mouth as her other hand slammed the ground after hitting it in midair. A tiger roared before finding herself forced to clutch in her mouth a waggling baby. "Hold him. He dies, I make a pelt out of you," Sakura snarled. "Now get as far away from here as you can." The tiger, a proud beast wishing for the adrenaline of the fight and the blood of his enemies, decided it was smart to do as his summoner said. He knew her words weren't idle threats. Conan inclined her head to the side and lifted a hand. Thousands of origami cranes began to spread out from her cloak sleeves, flapping their paper wings around them. Sakura went through hand seals, blowing off a stream of fire. The paper ignited, and then converged on her. With a quick twist of her body and the slicing motion of her tanto, the fire parted ways to allow her through. She slammed her sword to the hilt inside Conan's upper body, only for it to crumple in papers filled with explosive tags. Sakura flickered away, a log in her place as the explosion tore it to shreds. When she reappeared, paper shurikens dug deeply into her thighs, spraying blood out of her wounds while she hissed, burning them to a close without a second of thought, pouring fire chakra through her blade. Konan did not speak as she fought, letting her volleys of shuriken inscribed with explosive seals do the job for her. Sakura found herself avoiding the deadly hits more and more, until she could no longer withstand such a fast exchange of blows. A smoke bomb gave her enough time to hide below the ground to catch her breath. Meanwhile, Orochimaru, Nagato, and Naruto stared at one another. The Sannin was no longer human, but resembled a large white snake composed of many smaller ones. His chuckles came out as small hisses, and his amusement appeared to ring deeply. Nagato's eyes looked bored, and he too stood still. Naruto could no longer feel Orochimaru's presence, and that bothered him. He couldn't dare avert his gaze from the Sannin. Whoever attacked first risked giving an opening to the enemy. Whoever stood in wait held the upper ground, unless two attacked him at the same time? Whoever did not attack until the other two went at it could choose his victim with ease. "Should we play rock, paper, and scissor?" Naruto suggested. "It is kind of you to suggest something I cannot use," Orochimaru remarked. "If I had hands, I would gladly accept." "You are delaying the inevitable," Pain said. "If that was the case," Naruto said, "you shouldn't be scared to attack us, right?" "I offered you," Pain said, "a chance to be with your loved ones." He inclined his head to the side. "You refused it. Now I see I should have put you down rather than show you a modicum of mercy." "Don't hoist yourself on a high horse," Naruto spat back. "You're a monster, I'm a monster, he's a monster. Whoever wins gets to write down on history books how he was the righteous one from the beginning. Whoever loses gets the short end of the stick." Deidara's clay bird flapped loudly as it descended from the skies. Nagato inwardly smiled. If Deidara attacked him. As the bird dived for the Akatsuki's leader, Deidara atop it, the Awagakure missing Nin screamed. "I can't control my body!" "The fuck?" Explosive seals shone brightly, throughout all of Deidara's body and that of his bird. Nagato brought up his hands to deflect the blow, and as he did, his subordinate turned to dust as the power of the explosion backlashed against him. In that moment, Naruto's sword of black chakra came through as the Tsuchikage attacked from the side. Konan's body didn't stop the blade. It slowed it down enough for Nagato to jump away, straight into the path of Orochimaru's Kusanagi. The blade pierced through God's abdomen, passed through Konan's back and sliced neatly through Naruto's unguarded flank. Or it would have, if Sai had not pushed Naruto out of the way with his own body, faster than any ink construct he could have summoned with the same time limit. Instead of slicing Naruto's flank, the Kusanagi pierced through Sai's chest, cutting his spine off as the blade cleaved away from him. "I love it when I get more than one fly with the same stone throw." Sai fell with a sick thud. His breathing grew ragged. Nagato held himself up, his Rinnegan spinning wildly. "I will not give it up," Orochimaru said. "God or not, Rinnegan or not, the Kusanagi's poison is absolute. It's a law you cannot defy. I would have preferred to harness the sword of sealing from Itachi's eyes, and use that against whoever stood up last. Unfortunately, the only smart Uchiha I know of decided to sacrifice it all. Now they're lost forever, or at least until I get my hands on the defective inferior specimen." Nagato clutched his wound, and snarled as it closed. "You underestimate the Rinnegan's power. I can bring life to the dead. And you underestimate the Kusanagi," Orochimaru replied. He smiled. "And overestimate your powers." He spat his sword, letting it extend high in the skies. "Do you know what the sword's ancient name was, Nagato?" Orochimaru smiled. "Sword of the gathering clouds of heaven." The clear sky filled with clouds as wind chakra lashed out around the blade itself. "I wonder, will I get the moniker of God Killer after I'm done with you?" Naruto meanwhile held on to Sai's trembling shoulders, as the dark-haired teen looked up at him with a glazed-over look. "I can't feel my legs," Sai stated plainly. "Sai," Naruto began, hesitating. He clutched onto the boy's shoulders, unsure. Once, a long time before, the Kyuubi had healed Sakura. Now he didn't know how he had done that, or if he could do it again. "It's fine," Sai coughed out. "I'm happy." "Happy?" Naruto asked, in disbelief. "I had a brother," Sai murmured. "He died. I couldn't save him. I had no one, Danzo-sama. He thought me a failure, but, in the end, I found a new brother. I found a new sister." I had a family in my team, and then I had a master who taught me lots. I smiled. He chuckled, spitting out blood. Since I was born, I knew not what a smile was. Then, it came to me one night, and it never left. He shuddered. His body began to tremble. I'd like it if my death had a meaning. I was taught our deaths, as root, always had a meaning. I would like it if. He choked on his own blood, gasping for air as his throat constricted out of the poison. Naruto clasped Sai's hand, holding it firmly. Sai gasped. I'd like to die, making you smile. Sai, smiling is important. Life's bad, but a smile. He wheezed out, his eyes dropping. Is good. Naruto smiled. It was a forced smile. It was a smile born out of memory, as tears prickled at the corners of his eyes. The smile held no mirth. That's... Sai whispered. Fake limp dick. He exhaled. Brother. That was how Sai died. As the clouds gathered and rain began to fall, while Nagato clutched on to the area that Orochimaru had wounded and yet still pained him so, and Orochimaru looked on with a smirking glee at the scene, Sai died. Hidden in the dirt, Sakura clutched her right bleeding eye, her other fixed on the scene of Sai's death. Her fingers unclasped, and the Manjikyu Sharingan spun lazily within the girl's eye socket. Tears of blood and salty water fell from her eyes as she hazily dug her way out of the ground. Her hands gripped at her arms, as the Sharingan greedily sucked the chakra within her body. She couldn't withstand it for long, and she could not close it. She'd have to make do. For as long as she could, she'd have to make do. She was no longer the weak girl that had thoughts about Sasuke. She was no longer the greenhorn of the Chunin exams. She was no longer the girl who thought Umbu was too much for her. She was Haruno Sakura. She was strong. Her transplanted eye spun, everything came to her mind in detail, and there it remained. Every small movement, every tiny fraction of muscle twitching, and every breath the enemy made, the Sharingan caught them all, and she could see it. She could understand what that twitch meant, and where it would go. It was like watching the future happen right in front of her eyes, if it weren't for how the other eye simply saw the normal world, and that was beginning to give her one hell of a funny headache. She ground her teeth and felt the chakra literally disappear from her coils as she unleashed a barrage of scorching black flames, which burned without control the ground where Orochimaru and Nagato both stood. Sakura collapsed, her breath a wheeze. Naruto was by her side a moment later, covering her Sharingan with a forehead protector. Was it Sai's? She didn't know. As darkness fell on her implanted eye, at the very least, she felt the drain come less. Sakura, Naruto muttered. His voice was both shocked and surprised. Where? Sakura chuckled. It's not important, she hissed. Her emerald eye looked at him with determination. We're finishing this together, right? Naruto clenched his right fist, holding on to the black chakra sword as he gave her back a curt nod. Yes, he muttered. He eyed Orochimaru and Nagato. We are. Chapter 65, The Speech of the End of Times. Orochimaru laughed loudly. His snake form made him invisible to the senses of the Bijou, and while the Sharingan-using girl had not been part of the equation, she wasn't a problem, because he had a pair of his own. The true question was if Nagato had a final ace in his sleeve to play before his death. He blamed the Uzumaki resilience for the fact he still had to keep his guard up against the Rinnegan user. It wouldn't last long. Mythical Eye bloodline or not, he'd fall like all the others eventually. His thoughts were shielded, and in the event of another stalemate, he'd resort to that technique. Still, Naruto pounced on the wounded prey as a shark would a bleeding man in the ocean, just as he expected him to do. The black chakra blade he wielded fizzled out of existence as Nagato's eyes twirled against the boy's form. He didn't capitalize on the moment to strike further down Nagato. Better to let them waste chakra. He dug himself beneath the ground, leaving a copy of snakes above. He could hear the tremors in the ground, signaling the pink-haired girl's attempts at aiding Naruto, weakened as she was. There was a saying about leaving a broken-winged bird unguarded in a nest. He didn't remember it well, but it had something to do with snakes and their very large jaws. The girl was no Itachi. She was no Uchiha. He had 2 Manjikyu, and she had 1 since a few minutes. There really was no contest. He broke out of the ground with his jaws extended, ready to chew down on the girl with maniacal glee, when a buzzing light green thing snatched her away in a blur of speed, before crashing on the ground a few meters away from his point of exit. He hated it when things took a wrong turn. He really, utterly, loathed unpredictable variables. The Seven Tails wasn't meant to arrive for another hour at least. "Sakura-chan," Fu said with a bright smile and a grin, clutching the doozy Sakura by the shoulders, completely uncaring for the situation around them, or the destroyed Konoha, for what mattered. "I miss you. We have to eat dinner together, right?" Fu frowned, and looked around a moment later. Where's Karen-chan? And where's Konoha? Did I miss it?" Orochimaru hissed out in frustration. Konoha was nothing more than a green and luscious plain of grass now, and yet apparently the girl was, smart girl. Smart girl indeed. Trying to feign ignorance. Orochimaru mused out. "So that your Biji gives you answers, brat? I underestimated you." He stood up, just as his copy rattled its tail and circled around the two girls. Fu grinned widely. "You're an evil snake man. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to eat you." Her red tube opened, as the buzzing sound of carnivorous insects soon reached an all-new high, the swarms emerging and surrounding her and Sakura in their multicolored wings and carapaces. Fu then turned towards Naruto. "Hi!" she cheerfully bubbled out. "We're eating together later, right?" Naruto clenched his fist, and tried a soft smile. It came out as a grimace. Really, was there no reading the situation with her? He was a few feet away from Nagato once more, his previous attack being ineffective. "Sure," he said. His chakra twirled and rose, as he ground his teeth in a wicked smile. "Dealing with trash gets me hungry." Nagato's eyes narrowed. "As long as I possess the Rinnegan, there is no amount of chakra you can wield that will stop me." "Good." Naruto smiled, extending his hands as if to embrace. "Because after Sai's death, I wasn't counting on dealing with you cleanly at all." He dashed ahead, right fist ready. "Once more, this is futile," Nagato replied, twirling his eyes. The magnetic pressure hit Naruto head-on, but the boy just grinned and slammed his head against the invisible force. "If you've got a problem, then deal with it," Naruto howled, his black chakra anchoring him on the ground as he charged a Baijidama into his chakra-shroud mouth. "You can't keep this up forever." Naruto smiled. Nagato's eyes narrowed and he brought his hands, palm opens, in front of him. The blast erupted from Naruto's mouth with unholy strength, turning immediately to glass the path from him to the man. Yet an invisible barrier held up, as Pain's Rinnegan kept flaring in order to subdue the incredible amount of chakra. "The Sage of the Six Paths could easily control the 10 Tails," Nagato snarled. "You using his energy is just making this fight easier for me." "I'm not just a mass of energy and power, Nagato-chan," Naruto replied with a wicked grin. The blast ended. Naruto's tanto struck cleanly, piercing through the thick skull of the god of rain, as Nagato himself could do nothing but widen his eyes. "Simple tool, isn't it? Yoritoshi, designed to pierce through samurai armor. Danzo gave it to me a very long time ago. I always kept it. No chakra required to use it. I didn't really trust my aim though, so I had to blind you with the blast to get close enough." Naruto's hand held on to the blade's handle, as his eyes locked on with Nagato's Rinnegan. Naruto smiled, and twisted the blade before pulling it free. The god of rain, Pain, Nagato Uzumaki, whatever name he wished to be called with, fell back on the ground, flopping down like a dead fish, with glassy eyes empty of everything. "Nice, quick, to the point and anticlimactic like hell." Naruto nodded sagely. "I'm sure Danzo would approve of this." "Of all the powers in the world," Orochimaru hissed. "You used the tanto too." His snakes opened their mouths, releasing streams of cutting air to slice away the thousands of flesh-eating beetles that came for him. His eyes narrowed on the Jinchuriki of the Nanabai. They spun in their Manjikyu form. "Fu! Get down!" Sakura yelled, biting onto a chakra pill as her Manjikyu revealed itself once more, countering whatever genjutsu the snake tried on the Jinchuriki. Fu howled as she gripped her chest, coughing out a pained wheeze. The beetles grew frenzied as the chakra cloak of the Nanabai covered the girl. "You!" Fu howled. "You'll pay for this!" "Can't stand the truth, little girl?" Orochimaru cackled. "You ate your parents, you ate your teammates, and that makes you nothing more than a twisted cannibal. You're a monster of your own. You can't ignore the truth once spoken." "Shut up!" A Baijidama erupted from Fu's mouth, condensing into a ray of pure energy that blasted ahead, slicing neatly through the ground and tearing away a large chunk of ground and forest on its path. It blasted away at the Hokage mountain, neatly chopping off the Shodame's head. Why? It's so amusing, watching you pathetic worms squirm under the weight of your guilty consciences. Orochimaru grinned, dispersing in a swarm of 1,000 snakes, which slithered across the ground in 100 different directions. Where do you think you're going, Orochimaru? Naruto asked, twitching his right hand as the black chakra that imbued his body bent to his will, forming waves of fire that washed away the snake's swarm, leaving behind nothing but cinders and glass ground. A hand emerged from the glass ground, and as Orochimaru pulled himself up, he chuckled softly. This is so unfair, he mumbled. 3 against 1 is really unfair, he added. Naruto raised an eyebrow. We're shinobi. We're born to be unfair. Maybe, Orochimaru acquiesced. Still, he added, if I have to die, I'd rather die after getting a weight off my chest. You'll give me that much, won't you? No, Naruto snarled, his blade of black chakra rising. I won't. A true pity, Orochimaru whispered. To think I had. Naruto slashed ahead, cutting in half Orochimaru before the man could finish his sentence. The body fell on the ground with a dull thud, and as Naruto breathed in deeply, he gagged a moment later. Blood seeped out of his mouth as he clutched his chest. Well, Orochimaru remarked. It took long enough. What? Naruto growled. You're an Uzumaki. You're a pretty strong kid, and I'll give you that. Orochimaru acquiesced, appearing out of thin air as the body Naruto had cut morphed into another, one with tan skin and green hair. But you made a lot of stupid mistakes. Orochimaru grinned. You forgot the manjikyu I possess, for one thing. Secondly, you didn't realize until now that all that power is a hefty drain on your life force. You don't have the Mokutan, or the chakra chains of your mother, or any form of jujitsu to control it. You are power, without control. The snake Sennin smiled. And every time you used it, it shortened your life. Orochimaru sweetly grabbed a scroll from within his vest. I admit I never thought I would really have to use this contingency, but frankly, I find it oddly fitting. He opened the scroll. Like father, like son, I suppose. You really are the worst of your parents put together. Your mother's stubbornness, your father's cunning, and yet you played right into my hand. Seals of Jiraiya or not, you never would have lasted long. He licked his lips. You even killed your friend. He giggled. And you can feel it, can't you? The anger in your body, asking you to murder me, to kill me, to defy me, but you stop, because you know what this scroll contains. You know if I open it we all die. I can't let you leave. Naruto snarled. So many died, but you will. Orochimaru replied. You will let me leave, because you know there is no other choice available to you. I am sure you expected a final battle, worthy of hundreds of years of tales and legends. But you won't have it. You will never have it. I applaud you for stopping my plan to become God. I applaud you for barging in, taking over, and stalling me, but at the same time, I pity you. You're going to die, Naruto Namikaze. In 10 years, in 20 years, maybe if you're lucky in 30 years, you will die. I'll be back then, to take the 10 tails. I won't let you. Naruto snarled, taking a step forward as Orochimaru drew blood from his lips, letting his very long tongue bring it down to the scroll. All I need is some blood on this parchment, and all hell breaks loose. The snake Sannin smiled, laughing throatily. Nobody wins. Everyone loses. This is why trying to bring peace in the shinobi world will never work, Naruto Namikaze. One day, you'll find an enemy shinobi willing to commit the ultimate sacrifice in order to bring the enemies down. One day, you'll find an enemy so uncaring for his own life that he will die to stop you. You will find enemies who will never surrender. You will discover hurtful truths about the nature of man and life itself. And when that day will come, oh, I can guarantee you that it will come, you will remember this moment clearly. Orochimaru smiled. You should look after your teammate, the one that remains. She's barely standing. Of course, if you turn your back on me, I'll leave. If you don't, she'll die from the strain and then I'll leave. You should take this important lesson by heart, Naruto. Sometimes you just need to know when to fold. I refuse. Naruto growled. I refuse I refuse this. You can't, I can. Orochimaru nodded. And I will. You didn't lose, Namikaze, but you didn't win either. On the other hand, you did what the prophecy asked of you. You saved this world and you destroyed it. No longer will there be the shinobi system of the villages, but there will still be a system of shinobi. You'll spearhead it, won't you? Shinobi will no longer fight shinobi, but they'll fight samurai, or common men and brigands, and maybe kill lords and topple them. There will one nation, one day, and one country, and a single daimyo, and maybe that day mankind will forget their difference and become one, accepting and understanding each other through the fact that there will be no more enemies, no more differences. And here Orochimaru laughed loudly. And that is a fool's dream. Hear my words, Namikaze. When that day will come, differences will sprout from tiny things. People will hate those with a different hair color. They'll hate those with different eyes, or those too weak to live. They'll hate, and keep on hating, for as long as they'll draw breath. Humankind is a pathetic excuse of hatred piled on hatred. There is no peace, and there will never be. Conflict is eternal. It is through conflict that humanity evolves. We are creatures of war, death, and despair, and we will never be sated without violence. Now come on, Namikaze. Orochimaru brought his right hand forward, clenching it in a fist. Prove me wrong. I dare you. Prove me wrong. Do something unexpected. Do something I cannot foresee. Come on. Prove me wrong. You're the child of the prophecy. The one Jiraiya had hopes for. The one that would change this world. So prove it to me. Prove to me that the suffering will end forever. Give me everlasting peace. I don't think you'll be able to, but prove me wrong. Orochimaru cackled, a half-strangled sob in his throat. Everything I engineered, everything I did, and yet I have some hope you'll prove me wrong in the end. He whispered. But you won't. Orochimaru finished. His eyes narrowed. You don't have anything to prove I'm wrong. I stacked the deck in my favor too much. You can't even give me a worthy fight, because you're unable to see another way. Are you done with your monologue? Naruto hissed. I am. Orochimaru sighed. Unfortunately, I am. He gave his back to Naruto, and to Sakura, before starting to walk away. Sakura's hand gripped onto the Manjikyu eye, as she growled and spat out blood. She tried to take a step forward, but could not. She had no more chakra in her. All of her muscles pained her. Naruto felt empty inside. What had he fought for in the end? Peace. Had he achieved it? Orochimaru was getting away. Oddly, the man who had been the keenest in obtaining power had also been the first to give it up. He couldn't understand him. He knew he'd be back, maybe years later, to get at the 10 tails now sealed within his guts. And the man had told him how to get it under control. Why had he blurted out such a thing? If only he knew, then he could act on it. He couldn't read his mind. He couldn't understand him. If only he pushed himself faster than Orochimaru, if for a single second, he could kill the man and get the scroll. If he failed, everyone and everything would disappear. If he didn't, he'd win. Sai's sacrifice, Fu's death, Konoha's destruction, the betrayal of Yamato, the death of Pain, the Akatsuki, Aoba-sensei's death, everything that had happened to him until that very moment would be meaningless if he didn't win. Yet what would happen if he did win? Would they return? They wouldn't. He had fought, he had bled, he had believed himself a cut above everyone else. Almighty, all-powerful Jinchuriki, and in the end, Orochimaru had smashed away his arrogance and threw his face on the ground, making him eat the dirt and the dust his pride had lifted. There wasn't a clear-cut victory in the shinobi world. Suffering, pain, death, and despair were what surrounded their world. He had tried to destroy a system, and all he had obtained had simply been a change in it. There would still be money to be made through deaths, but there would no longer be many villages doing it. There would no longer be shinobi of Iwa, of Suna, of Konoha, of Kiri or of Kumo, but there would be shinobi. There would be a united front, and that explained why Orochimaru had slaughtered his way through the minor villages. Even back then, he had been preparing the ground. How far back had he planned everything? A curling sense of dread filled Naruto's soul. Just how far back had the man foreseen the events to come? How had he been able to plan everything, to let the pieces fall into place one after the other so neatly, so perfectly, that there had been no way to counter it? Orochimaru of the Sannin was a genius, a prodigy, a betrayer and a traitor. Yet he hadn't won, had he? Naruto hadn't won either. But then, who had won? In the end, after all this carnage, all this death and despair, after the sacrifices made and the bleeding, who had won? In war, Naruto muttered as understanding dawned on him. There is no victor. Naruto's shoulders trembled, as he stood in the grassy field covered in blood, as the grass grew taller with each passing minute. He brought a hand to his mouth and laughed bitterly, a half-strangled sob escaping his lips. When people fight, when people die, there is never a victor. Some deaths are cheap, Naruto said to the crowd in front of him, the people that believed in him as their leader. Some deaths are hard. Some heroes fall, and some rise. Iwagakure's population listened on raptly, as Naruto spoke after the war's end. We spill blood so easily, he said. We forget what a life means. Potential, unlimited potential, goes to waste with each breath of life that we take away. Sakura stood awkwardly behind him, in a corner covered by shadows. Her forehead protector, with the symbol of shinobi, covered her manjikyu-eye. There is a lesson that took me my entire life to learn, he said. A person can become anything he wishes to be, and when he dies, we do not simply lose the man or the woman he has been, but also the person he would have become. Naruto grimaced. We have lost countless lives, countless, precious lives. We have been bred for war, taught to relish it, to use it as a mean to an end. He shook his head. We have twisted the words of our ancestors to justify our violence. We have used our bonds to elicit revenge, rather than look for understanding. He chuckled grimly. We value our friends, and grieve their deaths. We seek revenge, bringing grief to the friends of those we murder. It is an unending cycle of hatred, one where one side must always hate, for without hate, the cycle is broken and a side loses. He exhaled. We do not seek understanding, for it is a longer path, a strenuous path, whereas a kunai in the neck solves disputes easily. We seek the easy way, the route that holds the shortest path to our destination. In doing so, we forget, or maybe we try desperately to hide, our inner longings for peace. We all want peace, but we want it at our rule, at our decisions. We don't want peace for peace's sake. We want a peace where we rule unquestioned, where we are the strongest, where we stand unchallenged. We want a peace born of supremacy, of despair for others. He clenched both of his fists on the balcony. I refuse, he said. I refuse to be the leader of such a peace. I want a peace where everyone is content. I want a peace where there is no jailer and jailed, where both sides understand and let their grief go. Death is cheap. Do you understand what it means? Naruto asked the crowd, larger still as he stood in the middle of what once had been the land of fire. Years had passed. He was tall now, and his white mantle billowed with the wind. His hat had the symbol with Kage on it, and surrounding him were no longer only those of IWA. It is easy to murder your way through problems, he said. Death is cheap. We buy it because it's cheap. We'd rather be accused of being cheapskates than try another mean to an end. We'd rather pay little now, not understanding the hurt we're bringing to those around us. A man I knew once told me that shinobi were creatures of greed and money, that we had no soul, for we sold it to the devil. Naruto inclined his head to the side. He was a disillusioned man, one who had been around for as long as the shinobi village had been, and his words, back then, had been right. Shinobi were demons, who sold their own mothers for money. They sold their strength, their skills, for money. It was how the world worked in his mind. He told me that shinobi came from shinobu, those who conceal themselves. Yet, it could also read as those who have faith in death, or those who extend death upon others. Naruto chuckled. He wasn't wrong, but he wasn't right either. A tool is a tool. How we use it determines its worth. A sword can cut and cleave a life just as well as it can protect one. A murderer and a protector share the same blades, the same soul, the same blood and flesh. It is us who make the ultimate call. We are shinobi. We can choose. We are free to choose our own path, our own destiny. It is us who decide who lives and dies, and why that happens. We are free. We restrain ourselves, but we are free to choose. He stood proud as he spoke to his people, where once there had been Kiri's capital, and now only his men remained. Time has proven, history has proven, life itself has proven that mankind cannot survive with peace alone. There is always conflict, and there is always war. There is despair, and death behind every corner. An utopia of peace is impossible. A perfect society and a perfect world are impossible. Those are but a fool's dreams. But this does not mean we cannot strive for it. This does not mean we can simply lay down our hearts and let them be trampled. Dreams are there to be our guides. The moment you let go of them is the moment you give up, cradle your body and die. I refuse this, he roared. I refuse a world which I cannot better. I refuse to see a wall and stop against it. I will crush all walls and remove all that stands in my way. I have a dream. He widened both of his arms, as if to embrace the crowd in front of him, and I will fight with tooth and nail for it. I will grip with my dying breath at its edges and persist with determination until I see it completed. If I have to clasp at the edges of life, if I have to stare death down and tell her to still time and let me live, then I will. I have a dream, and I will see it completed. He pointed his right hand forward, pointing at the crowd. What is yours then? What do you wish? What do you dream? What is it that you desire? Wealth can disappear, love can become hatred, everything you cherish and hold on to might one day be gone. But in the end, we are humanity. If we cannot find unity through our nations, if we cannot find unity through our bonds, then find it through what we are. Through what we all share. We have the same sky above our heads, and the same earth beneath it. Our hearts beat together. Our breaths hold together. We all live and die under the sun's glare. We all laugh and cry. We are humans, we are humanity. Before being shinobi, before being samurai, before being anything else, we are humans. He caught his breath. And as humans, it is our duty, our sacred, utmost important duty, he wheezed out, to understand each other, to accept each other. We are all brothers and sisters under this sky. We are all family. We are, deep down, connected to something far greater than any of us. Extend your hand rather than your fist. Accept your brother, accept your sister, believe, if not in your neighbor, in my words. He closed his eyes. I have done so many wrongs in my life that I will never be forgiven for. I stand here, in front of you all, not as your conqueror or as your dictator. I do not stand here as your new leader, or as the whip that will crack down on you. I stand here as your fellow man. I stand here, because I believe in my dreams for a better tomorrow. I stand, and I hope you will stand too, by my side in my quest for peace. If you cannot believe me, then try. It is that simple. It is that easy, Naruto grinned. You just need to believe. Once. In me. All it takes is for you to believe. Then he turned, as the crowd remained silent for a moment, soaking in the words of their Kage. He had said the same words year after year, battle after battle, and always, in the end, he had kept them. He left the balcony of the Kage Tower, nestled in the center of the Land of Fire, or what once had been, before the unification by the Land of Earth, and overseeing all the important trade roads and the capital. It had been hard to convince the headstrong old men of the other villages to leave them to build a new one. In the end, he had managed. Father, a dark-haired boy, all his mother, crossed his arms over his chest as he neared him. You should rest. I'll rest when I'm dead, brat, he replied with a chuckle of his own. It had been years past Orochimaru's deadline. Yet he still lived. He wondered if the snake had lied to him all those years before to make him hurry. He couldn't kid himself. He knew the day would come where he'd die. He was getting old anyway, past a certain age, no matter the training as shinobi began to lose its edge. Although, he had never had much of an edge to begin with, and since he fathomed himself a giant warhammer, he didn't need one. You'll make mother worry, the boy insisted primly. Your mother always worries. Naruto deadpanned. I'm not going to keel over and die. I mean, how stupid would that be? Do you think I'll just miss a step and fall down dead? His son looked sideways. You really do think that, don't you? Naruto remarked dryly. Well, you are old. Naruto ruffled Kokuyasiki's hair. He always hated it when he did that. Well, he was peeved at it. I still kick your ass during spars, Tebeo. I'm letting you win, he retorted hotly. Even with your brother and sister helping you, I still win. Naruto pointed out. Hands down, my eyes blind, and my legs tied. Kokuyasiki grumbled something akin to do you need to say it this loud as they passed by a couple of now snickering guards in the hallway. Naruto suddenly stopped walking. Father? Would you mind checking on your brother and sister, Koku? Naruto said softly. Father is something. Naruto just smiled. There's an old friend waiting for me in my office. Kokuyasiki frowned, but walked away without another word. Naruto finished his trek to his office's door, and dismissed the guards. He took a deep breath, and entered alone. It's been a long time, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru said offhandedly, his grin just like he remembered it. So, Naruto said. You've come now? I heard your speech. He acquiesced. I heard all of them. You are surprisingly boring and dull, and a bit repetitive with it. Why are you here? I'm not dead yet. Tell me, Naruto. Orochimaru said. Have you made the world a better place? Naruto raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? All those countless millions that died before, do you think their souls would be happy, knowing what their deaths brought forth? Orochimaru said. There is peace now, isn't there? I suppose, Naruto replied. That I'll never know until the day I die. I know. Orochimaru smiled. Differently from you, I'm not one who can be patient for long. I had to ask. I did ask. And they're happy. Sad that they're dead, of course, but happy that there is peace. I did good in the end, didn't I? You did? Naruto asked, an eyebrow rose as he calmly took a step forward. I did. Orochimaru grinned. I created you, didn't I? You're my creation. You brought forth this. He gestured around. Shinobi who live and fight not to murder and steal, but to protect and cherish, shinobi who do not bring their blades to the necks of children, and do not make shady deals to backstab those around them. You're giving yourself too much importance now, Orochimaru. You think? Orochimaru said. He took a step forward. I sacrificed everything I had for my chance to change the world. He smiled softly. And in the end, I knew you'd manage it, Naruto. You did what I would never have been able to do. You changed the world. You broke the system. You flipped the table, turned the cards, and you did it all without becoming the main villain, without being the devil or the monster I thought you'd have to become. I admit, I am glad. He chuckled softly. I'll be leaving now, Naruto. Live your life, die when you're ready, and don't worry. I've got even less to live than you do. Really? See? That's the problem with playing the part of the liar. Nobody believes you when you tell the truth. Orochimaru chuckled. I've always wanted peace, Naruto. I chose a most convoluted way to obtain it, taking all the variables, the variants, the possibilities and then acting on them, but I got peace in the end, didn't I? And I lived long enough to watch it grow into something beautiful. He shrugged. It's done. The technique I used for immortality was never complete. It requires a fresh body, every time. The time between changes shortens up too, and I'm not going to be changing bodies once a day, or once an hour, to live on. I see, Naruto said. He turned thoughtful. You never told me why Hebe was important. She wasn't. I genuinely wanted her to leave. See? The problems of being a liar, you're never believed when you speak the truth. He unclasped the scroll. On the other side, the Zero Tails was sealed within Danzo thanks to the Death God's seal. I wouldn't have had the time to both call Danzo's corpse forth and unseal the Zero Tails from it if you had struck. Naruto clenched his right fist. I'm not going to trash my office, he said. I know. Orochimaru smiled softly. I'm leaving the scroll with you. I'm the only one who knows how to counter the Death God's seal, and no one else will ever know. With my death, the circle closes. He began to disappear in a twirl of the Manjikyu. There are no more Sharingans. There are no more Rinnegan. The fabled bloodlines are all gone with me. Live on, Naruto, but remember. Orochimaru disappeared in a soft chuckle. I have saved the world, but make sure no one ever learns of it. It wouldn't do well to my image. Naruto's office door opened with startling speed, as he couldn't help but groan at the sight of Sakura clutching her bleeding eye side, where the Manjikyu had once been. Naruto! His Umbu captain exclaimed. Orochimaru's, I know, he said softly. Come here, he added. You're bleeding. Sakura scoffed. It's nothing. Mom. A pink-haired teen rushed inside, followed by Kokuyaseki and Naruto, the kid. You're bleeding. It's nothing, Sakura retorted hotly, half bothered. I was saying nothing, Naruto said calmly. Sakura's only eye looked at him wide for a moment, before he simply shook his head. Not in front of the children. I am a chunin, the pink-haired girl said primly. Shut it, Mebu. Naruto, the teen, grumbled. We're getting a promotion too when the exams come around again. Mom! Naruto's being mean to me again. Father, I wonder why I have to be in the same team as... Naruto sighed. He didn't know if his peace would last. He didn't know if his dream would become reality. He didn't know what the future reserved for him. He wasn't a genius, like Orochimaru apparently had been. What he did know, however, was that whatever happened, whatever was meant to happen, whatever would happen, he'd never let go of his dream again. He owed that much to all those that had come before. He owed it to all those that had died for him, because of him, or in his name. He was Naruto Namikaze. He was the Kage of the shinobi. He was the bringer of peace in the shinobi world and the elemental countries. And he'd be damned if he didn't force the history books to write a few chapters about Orochimaru portrayed in a good light just to spite the man. Then again, that was probably his intent all along, he'd never know. Naruto shrugged mentally. A life where you know everything must be extremely boring, after all.